Chapter 3600. That's good. I have some friendship with your spirit Jade, Hall's Deputy Hall Master Tong Fei. I'd like to ask him, when the Spirit Jade Hall has such strict rules that even people can't change mining areas. Lu Bianren looked coldly at Dai Wuchang. Although the Spirit Jade Hall did have relevant rules that people couldn't change mining areas at will, in fact, this was not an absolute hard and fast rule. In many cases, exceptions were allowed, especially when it involved the number 10 dead mining area. After all, everyone knew that there was no good jade to be dug out in the number 10 dead mining area. Generally, only the unlucky ghosts who offended the higher-ups would be sent to this dead mining area. However, from the perspective of Spirit Jade Hall, itself mining spirit jade, they didn't want to waste rare labor in this place. Therefore, once the matter of changing mining areas involved the number 10 dead mining area, it was generally allowed as an exception. Pavilion Master Lu, don't be anxious. This matter is actually not impossible to discuss. Dai Wuchang suddenly became anxious. He could not put Lu Bianren in his eyes, but he could not put the Spirit Jade Hall's Deputy Hall Master Tong Fei in his eyes. That was his immediate superior, an existence that could deprive his rice bowl with one word. Oh, didn't you say that the investigation is very strict? Why is there a discussion? Lu Bianren said with a smile that was not a smile, looking at the other party with contempt. Dai Wuchang's old face suddenly turned red, embarrassed for a long time, and couldn't say a word. To be honest, he was not afraid that Lu Bianren would find Tong Fei to change the mining area for Lin Yi, but he was afraid that the other party would mention the matter between him and Meng Jueguang. Tong Fei, this deputy hall master, was famous in the Spirit Jade Hall for being incorruptible and impartial. Once Lu Bianren said a few bad words in front of him, or even let Tong Fei start to investigate him, then he would really be finished. The matter between him and Meng Jueguang could not stand up to investigation at all. Once this matter was really exposed, don't talk about losing his rice bowl. According to the Spirit Jade Hall's rules, people who took bribes would be directly abolished. Those who took bribes would have their cultivation crippled. In serious cases, they would even be beheaded on the spot. Seeing Dai Wuchang's defeated look, the bitter senior brother couldn't help but snicker. Last time, this guy was still arrogant in front of him, but now he was scared by the third pavilion master and immediately became listless. Everything has its vanquisher. This time, he really found the right person to ask the third pavilion master for help. Since the other party was also a fellow disciple of Blue Cloud Pavilion, Lu Bianren didn't intend to make things difficult for him, even though he was furious. He directly said, "Let's not talk about anything else. I'll have to trouble you to get Lin Yi to the 7th mine." All right. Dai Wuchang hesitated for a moment, but in the end, he could only grit his teeth and agree. Putting himself in danger because of a small fry like Lin Yi, even if the possibility of Tong Fei coming down to investigate him was not high, Dai Wuchang could not afford to take the risk. Moreover, there was no need to take the risk. At most, he would explain it to Meng Jueguang later. He believed that he would understand. It was done. The bitter senior brother's heart instantly relaxed. The third pavilion master was here. Sure enough, it was a success. This time, Lin Yi could finally escape from the abyss of suffering. However, before the bitter senior brother could breathe a sigh of relief, a voice came from afar. Everyone's face changed immediately. "I'd like to see. Who has the guts to trade Lin Yi out of the 10th mining area?" This voice sounded a little familiar. The bitter senior brother was shocked. When he saw the face of the person coming from afar, his face fell immediately. Even Lu Bianren, who was beside him, couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. There were a total of 3 people, all familiar faces that appeared in the Blue Cloud Pavilion newcomers' cave. Kong Mingming, Zhong Pingliang, and walking in front of them was the young master of Blaster Pavilion, Su Lingchong. Young Master Su, what kind of wind blew you here? I didn't go out to welcome you. Please forgive me. Dai Wuchang saw the situation and quickly went to greet them. With the backing of the third elder of Blaster Pavilion, Su Lingchong was a very popular young master no matter where he went. As for a small character like Dai Wuchang, who had no background, even if he came from the Clear Cloud Pavilion, Huang Xiaolong had to think of every possible way to curry favor with him. After all, once he managed to get close to this young Master Su, as long as young Master Su put in a few good words for him, a meteoric rise in the future was just around the corner. Su Lingchong waved his hand casually, then turned his eyes to Lu Bianren and sneered, I was wondering who was so powerful to be able to shout in Jade Spirit Hall and trade mining areas. Isn't this the legendary third pavilion master of the Welcome Pavilion? I heard that he recently took charge of the Repent Cliff. He seems to have quite a lot of power. No wonder he's so powerful. Repent Cliff? Was there such a place in the Welcoming Pavilion? It sounded really awesome. Could it be the legendary hidden checkpoint? Could it be that this person was the legendary hidden boss? I didn't have the chance to see him at the welcome ceremony. I didn't expect to see him here. It's really a blessing of 3 lifetimes. Ha ha ha. Kong Mingming followed behind and sneered. As a new disciple, the Repent Cliff was introduced to them on the first day they came. At this time, he pretended to make a fuss, naturally to disgust Lu Bianren. It was reasonable to say that the Repent Cliff was one of the tasks that the new deacon was in charge of. It was a place with no big deal. However, the new deacon was not elected, so Lu Bianren could only continue to manage it. He couldn't find a way to change the place. Otherwise, even if he had no power, he would have suggested it to Blue Cloud Pavilion. This was also related to the status of Blue Cloud Pavilion. Even if Blue Cloud Pavilion was ranked 3rd, it was impossible to give up this power. Hugging a thick thigh like Su Lingchong, even if he, Kong Mingming, was a new disciple, he didn't put Lu Bianren, the 3rd Pavilion Master, in his eyes at all. Lu Bianren, the 3rd Pavilion Master, was in an awkward position. Being teased by a new disciple, Lu Bianren's face couldn't help but stiffen. However, he couldn't get angry in front of Su Lingchong, the young master of Soaring Sky Pavilion. Even if he could control Kong Mingming in name, Su Lingchong could refute him casually. At that time, he would be the one suffering. Moreover, Kong Mingming was an outer disciple of Soaring Sky Pavilion. His punishment must be approved by the great Pavilion Master, Hu Yunfeng. Otherwise, as the 3rd Pavilion Master, it would be equivalent to him farting, and it would be the kind that wouldn't make a sound. Seeing Lu Bianren's stiff face and not saying anything, Su Lingchong's gaze towards him became even more disdainful. Chapter 36:01. This time, the reason why Su Lingchong came out of the inner sect of Soaring Sky Pavilion was that, firstly, Kong Mingming had repeatedly begged him to bring him to Spirit Jade Hall, so that it would be convenient for him to do things in Spirit Jade Hall in the future. Secondly, he had also received information from Kong Mingming, saying that the ignorant newcomer in the secular world, Lin Yi, had suffered a big loss this time, and was sent to Dead Mine number 10 by Meng Jueguang. So, on a whim, he came out to watch the show. Unexpectedly, before he could see the show, he ran into this matter. Lu Bianren, this 10,000-year-old coward, actually wanted to change the mine for Lin Yi. He was just a mere 3rd Pavilion Master of Welcome Pavilion. Did he really think that he was a big shot? Who was it just now that said that he wanted to change the mine for Lin Yi? Was it you, Pavilion Master Lu San? Su Lingchong curled his lips and looked at Lu Bianren, but there was undisguised disdain on his face. Yes, it was me. Lu Bianren braced himself and said, Oh, so it was really Pavilion Master Lu San who said it. Then I don't understand. Since when can a mere third Pavilion Master of Welcome Pavilion intervene in the affairs of Spirit Jade Hall? Could it be that Spirit Jade Hall has already been annexed by Welcome Pavilion, or has Spirit Jade Hall been annexed by your Repent Cliff? Su Lingchong sneered and said aggressively, "Hee hee, look at what young Master Su is saying. Welcome Pavilion is so poor and shabby, even if it is annexed, it should be our Spirit Jade Hall, annexing them." Dai Wuchang echoed with a smile. Although he was frightened by Lu Bianren, just now that he had Su Lingchong to back him up, he naturally didn't have to worry about Lu Bianren's expression anymore. Although they were both independent departments, Welcome Pavilion and Spirit Jade Hall were nominally at the same level, but Welcome Pavilion could only manage a group of new disciples who had just entered the sect, while Spirit Jade Hall was in charge of the entire North Island's money bag. Even the three pavilions attached great importance to it. The appointment of the Pavilion Master of Spirit Jade Hall was completely not on the same level as the appointment of the Pavilion Master of Welcome Pavilion. The status of the two could not be mentioned in the same breath. Ha ha, I actually hope that young Master Su's words are true. If Pavilion Master Lu Sen really has the ability to annex Spirit Jade Hall, then I'll have to burn incense and worship him. When I become the new deacon next month and take over Reflection Cliff, won't I be in charge of Spirit Jade Hall then? That's just wishful thinking. Kong Xiaoming chuckled behind him. Dream on. You're practically a toad lusting after the flesh of a swan. Oh, that's not right. The toad should be a certain third pavilion master. Su Lingchong and the others immediately burst into laughter. Listening to these people's unbridled mockery, Yi Zichen's heart skipped a beat. Lu Bianren's face darkened involuntarily. Although he did not have the confidence to contend with Su Lingchong, it was related to Lin Yi's future, and even more related to his insistence all along. In the end, he still looked firm and said in a sonorous voice, "Young Master Su must be joking. I'm not meddling in the affairs of Spirit Jade Hall. But Spirit Jade Hall originally has this special case. The newcomers in the 10th mining area can be changed to other mining areas at their discretion, and Lin Yi is a newcomer in my Welcome Pavilion, so I request to change the mining area for Lin Yi, not exceeding my authority." "Oh, there's such a special case in Spirit Jade Hall. Dai Wuchang, you're the person in charge of the mining area contract, so you should be the clearest about this matter. Tell me about it." Su Lingchong raised his eyebrows and looked at Dai Wuchang. In reply to young Master Su, "I've been working here for some years, but I've never heard of such a special case. Why don't you ask this Pavilion Master Lu San to point it out to me face to face? Which section and which article in the regulations of Spirit Jade Hall is this special case he's talking about?" Dai Wuchang looked serious, looking at Lu Bianren with a sneer. Lu Bianren's face involuntarily turned green. He choked until he couldn't speak for a long time. This so-called special case in the 10th mining area was actually something that everyone had agreed upon for a long time. From top to bottom in Spirit Jade Hall, everyone knew that there was such a thing, and they all knew that it was reasonable to do so, but it had never been written into the regulations. Dai Wuchang deliberately saying, so now was clearly nitpicking. Oh, turns out that Spirit Jade Hall doesn't have such a rule at all. It's just that Pavilion Master Lu Sen deliberately fabricated it for convenience. Luckily Dai Wuchang is here today, or else this young master would really be deceived by you. I've always heard how useless Pavilion Master Lu San is. Now it looks like the rumors are wrong. He's actually quite sinister. Su Lingchong pretended to be angry. He naturally knew about the special case in the 10th mining area, but since the other party had already taken the initiative to deliver a handle to his door, it would be a waste not to make use of it. Don't you slander me. Lu Bianren was not a person with a sharp tongue to begin with. Now that Su Lingchong and the rest joined hands to scold him, he immediately had no way to refute. He could only look at Dai Wuchang with a cold face and said, "Junior apprentice Brother Dai, since you insist on seizing a chicken feather as an arrow of authority, then I can't do anything about it. Wait for me to find Deputy Hall Master Tong Fei to come forward. At that time, let's see what you have to say." As he spoke, Lu Bianren was about to turn around and leave with the bitter senior apprentice brother. Dai Wuchang's face suddenly changed. Although there were no loopholes in what he said just now, anyone with a discerning eye knew that he was deliberately helping Su Lingchong to scold Lu Bianren. The reason was actually not tenable, and the more crucial point was that Deputy Hall Master Tong Fei came from the Profound Secrets Pavilion. Towards the Soaring Sky Pavilion's Su Lingchong, these arrogant and despotic young masters, he had always been unable to tolerate it. If this matter really spread to Tong Fei's ears, Dai Wuchang, might be implicated, and even turn to start investigating him. That would be playing big. Dai Wuchang immediately looked at Su Lingchong for help. However, before he could speak, Su Lingchong had already taken the initiative to speak. Wait! Lu Bianren originally didn't want to pay attention to him, but due to the other's deep background, he could only patiently stop his footsteps. He turned his head to look at Su Lingchong and said, "Is there anything else?" "There's nothing else. I just want to tell you, Third Pavilion, Master Lu a sentence." Su Lingchong smiled with ridicule and said, "If you go to find Tong Fei to change the mining area for Lin Yi, then I won't stop you, but after I go back, I will tell my grandfather that the people of Blue Cloud Pavilion are getting more and more outrageous. They are obviously sitting in the position of the Third Pavilion, Master of the Welcoming Pavilion, but they stretch their hands into the Spirit Jade Hall. Their power is simply monstrous, and they look down on everyone. Shouldn't we talk to the Elder Guild and reorganize the 3 pavilions like 3 years ago?" Hiss! Hearing this, Lu Bianren couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Looking at the complacent Su Lingchong, his expression was uncertain. Chapter 36:02. It was no exaggeration to say that the Elders' Council was the highest power center of the entire North Island, and the elders who could be listed in the Elders' Council were the highest level of giants in the North Island. The third elder of Soaring Pavilion, who was also Su Lingchong's grandfather, was one of them. Lu Bianren couldn't help but sneer at the thought of the mighty reorganization of the 3 pavilions 3 years ago. The reorganization of the 3 pavilions was initiated by the Elders' Council and involved many aspects, including the 3 pavilions and all the major independent departments. For the weakest Blue Cloud Pavilion, it was a catastrophe because of its weakness. Although Blue Cloud Pavilion also had people who could enter the Elders' Council, the number of people in the 3 pavilions had always been the smallest, and correspondingly, the right to speak was also the weakest. During that reorganization, the small power of Blue Cloud Pavilion was almost completely divided up by Soaring Pavilion and Mysterious Pavilion. The most obvious example was independent departments like Welcoming Pavilion and Spirit Jade Hall. As far as the eye could see, there was not a single person from Blue Cloud Pavilion. Not a single one. It was one thing if others were muddle-headed, but for someone like Lu Bianren, who had been longing for the Clear Cloud Pavilion to regain its former glory, that period of reorganization was unforgettable. Even though 3 years had passed since then, the Clear Cloud Pavilion showed no signs of recovering. In fact, it was getting worse with each passing day, becoming weaker and weaker. If the 3 pavilions were to be reorganized now, it was possible that Blue Cloud Pavilion would directly fall apart. In the face of such an undisguised threat from Su Lingchong, other people without a sense of responsibility might not take it to heart, but for people like Lu Bianren, this threat was simply fatal. In fact, even if the other party directly threatened his personal safety, with Lu Bianren's character, he might not retreat, but this matter concerned the fate of the entire Blue Cloud Pavilion. So he had to be careful. Taking a deep breath, he calmed the raging waves in his heart. Lu Bianren looked at the other party and said slowly, "Young Master Su, it's just changing the mining area for a newcomer. It's just a trivial matter. There's no need to mobilize so many people to frighten people, right?" "Oh, trivial? Looks like Pavilion Master Lu San has been banished to the Repent Cliff for too long and is ignorant and ill-informed. He doesn't even know what's going on outside." Su Lingchong sneered, then said in an awe-inspiring tone, "Lin Yi, the newcomer of your Blue Cloud Pavilion, doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. He actually dares to disobey my orders, making me lose face in front of so many people. Do you think I'll let this bastard go? If you dare to change the mind for him, don't blame me for bringing disaster to the entire Blue Cloud Pavilion. Young Master Su, aren't you being a little too overbearing? What's more, a great person shouldn't hold grudges against a lowly person. Why do you, the dignified young Master Su, have to be so angry with a newcomer?" Lu Bianren still wanted to fight for Lin Yi one last time, but he understood in his heart that since Su Lingchong had spoken to this extent, it was already impossible to make Su Lingchong relent. "Domineering? I'm still that domineering. What? You want to bite me? Do you have the guts to do that?" "Ha ha ha." Su Lingchong laughed in an incomparably insolent manner. Just based on the fact that his grandfather was a member of the Elders' Council, no one in the Clear Cloud Pavilion dared to provoke him. As for Lu Bianren, the infamous good-for-nothing in the welcoming pavilion, it was even less likely that he would put him in his eyes. Lu Bianren was so angry that his face turned ashen, but in the end, he could only grit his teeth and endure. Not to mention whether or not he could beat Su Lingchong. Just based on Su Lingchong's sensitive identity, if he really made a move against him, it would give Soaring Sky Pavilion enough of an excuse to denounce him. At that time, it would be an immeasurable disaster for the entire Blue Cloud Pavilion. Letting out a long breath, Lu Bianren knew that there was no meaning in staying here any longer. He would only be inviting humiliation. He could only turn his head and say to Senior Apprentice Brother Bitter, "Things can't be done. Let's go." Senior Apprentice Brother Bitter nodded silently. After helplessly sighing, he could only turn around and leave with Lu Bianren. Now that things had developed to this point, Lu Bianren could no longer be blamed for not trying his best. In fact, he had fought for Lin Yi time and time again, and was already taking a big risk. If he were to quarrel with Su Lingchong for the sake of Lin Yi and ultimately bring disaster to the entire Blue Cloud Pavilion, then he would really become the sinner of Blue Cloud Pavilion. Ha! Young Master Su is indeed mighty and domineering. In front of our young Master Su, this third pavilion master is simply like a stray dog. He doesn't even dare to let out a fart. He's really a complete good-for-nothing. Kang Mingming and the others looked at Lu Bianren and Su Lingchong's dejected backs and couldn't help but burst into laughter. They hurriedly flattered Lu Bianren. Su Lingchong smiled proudly. With his identity and position, scaring Lu Bianren away was simply a small matter that wasn't even worth mentioning. With this kind of trash, he wanted to stand up for Lin Yi. He really didn't know how to write the word death. "Young Master Su, these two are?" After laughing, Dai Wuchang pointed at Kang Mingming and Zhong Pingliang and asked. When Lu Bianren threatened to find Tong Fei just now, he was still on tenterhooks. But now that Su Lingchong had already come out and scared Lu Bianren away, he naturally had nothing to worry about. This is Kang Mingming and Zhong Pingliang. These two are newcomers from the secular world this year. They are now outer sect disciples of my Soaring Sky Pavilion. They are also my subordinates. Today, I brought them over for you to get to know." Su Lingchong said indifferently. So it's junior brother Kong and junior brother Zhong. Both of you are really talented. No wonder young Master Su appreciates you. Dai Wuchang hurriedly flattered. Although Dai Wuchang wholeheartedly wanted to curry favor with Su Lingchong because he was born in Blue Cloud Pavilion, a young master like Su Lingchong wouldn't put him in his eyes at all. At most, Su Lingchong would call him when he needed him. In comparison, it was more reliable to curry favor with a newcomer like Kong Mingming. After all, this was equivalent to indirectly hugging onto Su Lingchong's thick thigh. You're too polite. Senior brother Dai too. Please take care of me in the future. Kong Mingming smiled faintly and said politely, as a newcomer who had been taken care of by Su Lingchong recently, he had already started to learn to put on airs. Although he wanted to make friends with people like Dai Wuchang, he couldn't lower his status. He had to maintain a psychological advantage and take the initiative. Only then would he be able to use the other party. At the same time, Zhong Pingliang also took the opportunity to build a relationship with Dai Wuchang. After all, if he wanted to play the role of a spy, he couldn't fall too far behind Kong Mingming. Otherwise, even if the other party made a move, he might not be able to get the specific information. Chapter 3603. Although his main purpose for coming out this time was to see Linny make a fool of himself, since he had promised to help Kong Mingming build connections, he naturally had to introduce a few high-level people to them. As for low-level managers like Dai Wuchang, if he hadn't happened to meet them just now, he wouldn't have bothered to care about them. Then, take care, young Master Su and junior brothers. Dai Wuchang hesitated for a moment, and finally had to send them off respectfully. He originally wanted to remind Su Lingchong not to be happy so early. After all, he knew that Lin Yi dug out 8 pieces of good jade yesterday, which made Meng Jueguang and the others who were ready to see him make a fool of himself. Maybe this young Master Su would repeat the same mistake. But thinking about it, in a dead mining area like 10th, it was already a miracle that he was able to dig up 8 pieces of good jade yesterday. He couldn't possibly be that lucky today, could he? It wasn't like he was the legendary child of fortune. Therefore, in the end, Dai Wuchang held back his words, in case his reminder didn't come true and deliberately spoiled the mood, leaving a stain in young Master Su's heart. In the blink of an eye, the sky turned dark, and the melodious bell rang throughout the major mining areas. It was time to hand over the work. In each mining tunnel, people came out one after another. They were first weighed, and then inspected. After going through this never-changing handover process, most people left one after another. After all, they had been mining for a whole day. Even if they could hold on physically, they were still a little tired mentally. Even if they went back to the cave residence to meditate and practice, it would be a rare recovery. However, a group of Blue Cloud Pavilion newcomers, led by Meng Jueguang and Meng Tong, stayed at the quality inspection office like yesterday to see Lin Yi make a fool of himself. Although he was disgraced by Lin Yi's 8 pieces of good jade yesterday, Meng Jueguang absolutely didn't believe that Lin Yi could still have that kind of luck today. Otherwise, it would be too strange. What he didn't expect was that before Lin Yi arrived, Su Lingchong and the others had arrived. He hurriedly went forward to curry favor with him. However, after clarifying the other party's intentions, especially when asked about yesterday's situation, Meng Jueguang's expression couldn't help but turn strange. He could only force a smile and say, "That brat was lucky yesterday and managed to get a few pieces of good jade. However, there is no such thing as being lucky every day. Today is the day he reveals his true colors. Young Master Su, just wait and enjoy his unfortunate expression. That kid actually dug up a few good jades yesterday." Su Lingchong was surprised, but he didn't take it to heart. After all, even the dead mining area know 10 would occasionally produce good jade, but it was absolutely impossible to produce good jade every day. Otherwise, it wouldn't be called the dead mining area. The group of people raised their heads and waited for almost an hour. When the others were almost gone, they finally saw Lin Yi's figure on the empty mine number 10. The corners of their mouths immediately curled up into a mocking smile. Brat, let's see if you can continue to be so proud today. Today's lineup is not small. Could it be that you are all looking forward to me digging up more jade today? When Lin Yi raised his head and saw this group of people, he couldn't help but stare blankly for a moment, especially when he saw familiar faces like Su Lingchong and Kang Mingming. After coming to his senses, he couldn't help but laugh in his heart. With so many people rushing to watch him hand over his work, Lin Yi really didn't know whether he should feel honored or sad. Of course, if he wanted to be sad, he should be sad for this group of people. Meng, Jueguang, and the others were fine. After all, they were originally close to the mining area. However, a big shot like Su Lingchong came all the way to see him make a fool of himself. When the time came, he wouldn't be able to make a fool of himself and would instead be snubbed. Wasn't that sad? Pretentious newbie. Today, I dug up 8 pieces of good jade. Let's see if you can still be as lucky as yesterday. But out of humanitarianism, I guess you should still be able to dig up 8 pieces. It's a pity that they are all useless jade. Ha ha ha. Seeing Lin Yi appear, Meng Tong immediately jumped out impatiently. Today, he wanted to properly provoke Lin Yi. Meng Jueguang personally went into action and guided Meng Tong from the side to dig up jade. And Meng Tong also did his best to dig up jade. In the end, the result was even more than yesterday. It was simply the envy of others. Of course, because there were more people in the 7th mining area, Meng Tong wasn't alone. There were also some outer court disciples of Blue Cloud Pavilion who didn't successfully advance to the Heavenly Law Foundation establishment early stage in the previous batch. They no longer had the treatment of cave abodes. They could only rely on the jade that they earned through hard work and slowly cultivate. When they broke through, they could then participate in the inner court disciple trial again to advance to the inner court. Therefore, even with Meng Jueguang's help, Meng Jueguang could only help Meng Tong search for jade in a place where there was no one around. The efficiency wasn't very high either. This made him a little envious of his bitter senior brother. This guy could help Lin Yi search for jade in the entire 10th mining area, not to mention the other newcomers in the 8th mining area. Even Li Zhengming, who was assigned to the same mining area as Meng Tong, was looking at Meng Tong with envy. Meng Tong had only picked up 5 pieces of good jade today. 8 pieces? That's not bad. You're almost catching up to me, but you still have to continue to work hard. Lin Yi purposely raised his eyebrows. As he spoke, he poured the spirit jades in the basket onto the weighing platform. F***CK. You're just lucky once. You're just an unlucky bastard from the 10th mining area. What are you so proud of? Let's see how you cry during the quality inspection later. Meng Tong almost exploded with anger. He had tried his best to beat Lin Yi today, but in the end, Lin Yi didn't even put him in his eyes. Compared to being looked down upon, this kind of nonchalant disregard was even more hateful and infuriating. 45 caddies and 3 tails. No problem. The staff member in charge of weighing reported after checking the account book handed in by the guard. Lin Yi let out a sigh of relief. Just like yesterday, he had secretly hidden 2 pieces of waste jade with insufficient spiritual qi. In fact, with the amount of waste jade he had dug out today, it wasn't impossible to hide 1 more piece. But in that case, all the waste jade he had dug out today would have to be charged into good jade. All of them were good jades, full of spiritual qi, but there wasn't a single piece of waste jade. This was a little unscientific. In order to avoid shooting the bird that stuck out, It was better to be more stable. After all, there was still a long way to go. Hearing this number, Su Lingchong, who was waiting to see a joke, couldn't help but slightly change his expression. Although he had never personally mined because of his deep background, he had worked as a steward in the Spirit Jade Hall for a period of time in order to gain some experience. So, he had some concept of these processes. Chapter 3604. Even the 10th mining area couldn't control him. Was this kid, who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth, really so strange? Che, every time, it's like you're collecting junk. You even put in trash jades, making it look like you've picked up a lot of good jades. Really, mud can't support a wall. You're a disgrace to our clear cloud pavilion. Meng Jueguang saw through Su Lingchong's confusion and promptly explained. So that was it. Only then did Su Lingchong's expression soften a little. With a disdainful smile, he turned to Kong Xiaoming. I say, Kong Shitty, are all the people in the common world this poor? You won't even let go of a few worthless pieces of jade like this. Master Su, although we people in the common world haven't seen much of the world, we're not all trash pickers. But Lin Yi and I are different. Although we're from the common world, we're from the top sections. I'm from the 5 Elements sect. And this brother Zhong is from the everyday and everyday sect, while that Lin Yi is a complete freelancer. We all despise people like him who relied on scavenging to get to the heavenly stage island. Kong Xiaoming laughed. His words belittled Lin Yi to the point that he was worthless. Lin Yi was despised on Sky Class Island, and he was despised even when he returned to the common world. That was simply detestable. Oh, so you're from the 5 Elements sect? That's a big sect. Our pill god Zhang Liju from Sky Class North Island is a master from your common world's 5 Elements sect. I've heard of the everyday and everyday sect. It used to be a sect from Middle Island. You're all descendants of famous sects. No wonder you've joined our Soaring Sky Pavilion. It's just right. Su Lingchong understood after hearing that. He was a prideful person. Obviously, he respected Zhang Liju from the 5 Elements sect, but after hearing about Lin Yi, he couldn't help but laugh. That's true. If you guys were like this guy, I wouldn't have liked you guys back then. This kind of trash that only knows how to pick up trash should be left to Blue Cloud Pavilion. Su Lingchong's words were said in front of everyone. When the Blue Cloud Pavilion rookies heard this, their faces immediately changed. Didn't Su Lingchong's words mean that they were also trash? Although the Clear Cloud Pavilion was the weakest among the 3 pavilions, and it was true that it had the reputation of being a waste shelter, saying such words in front of so many Clear Cloud Pavilion new disciples was no different than pointing at a monk and scolding a bald donkey. Isn't this young master Su going a little too far in bullying others? However, Meng Jueguang, the big senior brother, who could represent the Blue Cloud Pavilion the most, turned a deaf ear to Su Lingchong's words. He still tried to curry favor with Su Lingchong with a fawning expression. Instantly, the rookies felt a chill in their hearts. It was true that they were grassroots rogue cultivators. The Blue Cloud Pavilion was in a disadvantageous position. They could accept it, but it did not mean that they were willing to suffer such unbridled insults in front of their faces. And because of yesterday's unforeseen event, although they had gathered here today to watch Lin Yi make a fool of himself, they were mostly in a wait-and-see state. They were not on the same side as Meng Jueguang and company. And now, after being provoked by Su Lingchong, especially after seeing Meng Jueguang's face, at this moment, he felt like he was on the same side as Lin Yi. The moment the rookie's mentality changed, the atmosphere suddenly changed. Originally, this circle of people gathered here to watch Lin Yi make a fool of himself. But at this moment, it felt like they were cheering for Lin Yi. Not only did they not wish for Lin Yi to make a fool of himself, they hoped that he would show a bunch of good jade, like yesterday, blinding the dog eyes of Su Lingchong and Meng Jueguang. Hee, looks like this bunch of people aren't hopeless. Lin Yi smiled thoughtfully. He originally thought that this bunch of rookies had been reduced to the same lackeys as Meng Jueguang. But from the looks of it, there was still a last bit of ambition that had not been ground down. Not only Lin Yi, Meng Jueguang also quickly noticed the subtlety of the situation. Seeing the rookies vaguely turning the spearhead towards him, he could not help but complain in his heart. He was someone who wholeheartedly wanted to curry favor with someone of a higher position. To have the opportunity to interact with a young master like Su Lingchong was a blessing that he had cultivated for 8 lifetimes. He could not give up such a great opportunity just because of a sentence from the other party. But then again, if he wanted to improve in the future, he had to maintain his current position. And to maintain his position as the eldest senior brother, he had to subdue this bunch of rookies. Yesterday was a great opportunity, but it was destroyed by Lin Yi's miraculous dogshit luck. And today was another opportunity, but he never expected to encounter such an awkward dilemma. If he did not refute Su Lingchong's ridicule, then he, Meng Jueguang, would definitely lose points in front of the rookies. It was a matter of dignity and integrity. This was extremely fatal. Once this image was fixed, it would be even more difficult to subdue them in the future. But if he refuted Su Lingchong, it would go along with the wishes of the rookies, but the outcome would be even worse. Young Master Su could casually greet Hu Yunfeng, and he, Meng Jueguang, would never be able to make a comeback. Either he offended the rookies, or he offended Su Lingchong. Suddenly being forced into such a dilemma, Meng Jueguang even had the thought of hacking Lin Yi to death in front of everyone. If it was not because he wanted to see this unlucky guy make a fool of himself, why would he be in such an awkward situation? Now, before he could make a fool of himself, he had become the unlucky guy who was unjustly implicated. However, at this time, Su Lingchong seemed to have noticed Meng Jueguang's awkwardness. It was true that he did not like Blue Cloud Pavilion, but he was an ambitious and intelligent person. Don't be fooled by his usual arrogance. But he was still very meticulous in his thinking. Since Meng Jueguang intended to rely on him, he would naturally accept it. It would be good if the people of Blue Cloud Pavilion became his underlings. But in order to make his underlings loyal to him, he still had to give them face. So he said faintly, "When I said Blue Cloud Pavilion was trash, I was referring to Lin Yi, Xiao Ran, and Xiao Hongkai, because they followed people with no future. They were destined to be trash. But if they followed me and junior brother Meng Jueguang, then it's different. Even if you are trash, there will be a time for you to counterattack. Because in the Heaven North Island, if you want to stand out, what do you rely on? You rely on your backing. You are all Heaven stage experts. Your qualifications are not bad. And the starting line is the same. What you are competing for is cultivation resources. Following the right person is very important. Otherwise, you can only rely on dog **T luck in the future." Su Lingchong's words immediately made the blood of the Blue Cloud Pavilion disciples boil. That's right, in the Heaven North Island, what was the competition? Wasn't it because of whose backing was stronger? Chapter 3605. Moreover, what was the use of being lucky? Wasn't he still being troubled by Meng Jueguang and the others all day long? If he didn't have good luck, could he be protected by the hardship? Obviously not. As for those who had disloyal thoughts previously, they had also calmed down at this moment. They all recognized the situation clearly. They didn't have Lin Yi's luck. Wouldn't following the hardship be even more miserable than being a hardship? Moreover, Su Lingchong's words were already very clear. He would be Meng Jueguang's backer. Then, what was there to be afraid of? This was a top-notch backer. Meng Jueguang looked at Su Lingchong gratefully. Suddenly, he had the feeling of a soldier dying for a bosom friend. Su Lingchong said that he would protect him. Wouldn't he be more popular in the future? Just thinking about it made him incomparably happy. Following this kind of boss was really awesome. Lin Yi, on the other hand, looked at Su Lingchong thoughtfully. This young master Su wasn't an idiot, although he looked arrogant and despotic, as if he was the world's number one. In fact, his wisdom wasn't weak at all. However, Lin Yi didn't take it to heart. Anyway, these people were his enemies. It was impossible for him to reconcile with them. Let them do whatever they wanted. Therefore, he followed the handover process unhurriedly. After passing the scale, he packed up the spiritual jades and went to the quality inspection department to queue. He didn't seem to be in a hurry at all. Lin Yi had the patience to wait, but Su Lingchong, who was anxious to see him make a fool of himself, didn't have the patience. After greeting the people, he directly asked Kong Ming to cut Lin Yi's basket into the quality inspection department. After all, with Su Lingchong's deep background, the others turned a blind eye to it. They dared to be angry, but didn't dare to say anything. Very soon, the quality inspection results came out. It was still the voice of the mysterious pavilion's senior Tong from yesterday. Lin Yi, 10 good jades, 7 useless jades, 19 trash jades. 10 jades. How is this possible? Meng Tong was so shocked that he almost bit his tongue off. He had only managed to dig up 8 pieces of good jade today, and this was the 7th mining area. But look at Lin Yi from the 10th dead mining area. Not only did he dig up 8 pieces of good jade on the first day yesterday, but today he actually increased it to 10 pieces. It wasn't only Meng Tong. Even Su Lingchong, Meng Jueguang, and the others had expressions as wonderful as if they'd eaten shit at this moment. All of their faces were flushed red, and they looked as if they wanted to vomit, but couldn't. Not only did he eat sh*t, but he was also stuffed to death by sh*t. Yesterday, Lin Yi was lucky enough to dig up 8 pieces of good jade, but what about today's 10 pieces? Could it be that this guy was really the son of luck? How could he be so lucky for 2 days in a row? I can't help it. Who asked me to have a good character? When luck comes, it can't be stopped. Lin Yi shrugged helplessly at this group of people. It was simply infuriating. F***ck. Only a few pieces of good jade could be found in the 10th mining area in a year. How could this guy dig up so many good jade in 2 days in a row? I don't King believe this. Su Lingchong was seething with anger at Lin Yi's expression. Flustered and exasperated, he pointed at the quality inspection area and said angrily, "Old man Tong, come out. Take out this pile of useless jade and re-inspect it in front of me." In front of a small steward like Meng Jueguang from the welcoming pavilion, this senior brother Tong from the profound pavilion could still put on airs. But in front of the soaring sky pavilion's young master, Su Lingchong, it was impossible. Although the profound pavilion had never been on good terms with the soaring sky pavilion, young Master Su was not someone a small fry like him could afford to provoke. When senior brother Tong heard this, he hurriedly responded and put the spirit jades that Lin Yi had dug up back into the basket. Then he carried them out personally and re-inspected them in front of everyone. 1 piece, 2 pieces, 3 pieces. When senior brother Tong finally picked out 10 pieces of good jade and placed them in front of everyone, everyone was dumbfounded once again. Su Lingchong did not believe it and picked them up one by one to feel them. His originally hazy face completely collapsed. The spiritual qi of heaven and earth was pure and full. The richness of the jade was even greater than the spiritual jades he usually used for cultivation. No matter how picky a person was, they would never say that these spiritual jades were worthless. On the contrary, even among the good jades, these spiritual jades were rare and of high quality. How is it, Senior Brother Sue? I picked up these trash spirit jades from the trash. I don't think I would be able to catch the eye of a big shot like you, would I? Lin, he crossed his arms and smiled calmly at the side. Su Lingchong's complexion was ashen, but he was choked to the point that he could not speak for a long time. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, he could not possibly lie. If he really braced himself and said that these spirit jades were all useless jade, then where was the spirit jade hall? Even if he, this young master, had a strong backing in front of such an obvious matter, these people from the Spirit Jade Hall would not dare to follow him and speak nonsense. Originally, young Master Su's mood was pretty good today, especially after he scared away Lu Bienren, who wanted to change the mining area for Lin Yi. It gave him a pleasant feeling that everything was under his control. Although he could not personally take action to teach Lin Yi a lesson for the time being, to be able to crush the other party to death in the 10th dead mining area was also a delightful matter. In the end, he did not expect that he would encounter such a thing in the blink of an eye. He had obviously been crushed to death in the 10th dead mining area. If it was someone else, they would not be able to make a fuss. But in the end, this Lin Yi had dug out so many good jades in the dead mining area. And this was not the first day. This was already the second day, in a row. Su Lingchong's current mood was as if he was filled with joy and mentally prepared to eat the Manchu Han imperial feast. In the end, when the dishes were served, when the lid was lifted, it was pig's swill that had gone bad for half a month, and there was even a swarm of green-headed flies buzzing around it. Not to mention this, the problem was that he actually had to pinch his nose and drink this pot of swill. Su Lingchong's face turned green. Kang Mingming's face also turned green. One must know that compared to Su Lingchong, he was the real archenemy of Lin Yi with a deep hatred. If one were to say who wanted Lin Yi to be unlucky the most, he would absolutely be ranked first. However, the more urgent this feeling was, the more swill he drank at this time. That kind of feeling could only be described with 4 words: wanting to cry but having no tears. And to say that among Su Lingchong's group at this time, the only one who was in a good mood was Zhong Pingliang. If it wasn't for his identity as a spy, this guy might even be unable to restrain himself from cheering loudly. Boss Lin Yi was Boss Linny after all. It looked like he couldn't move at all, but he'd given everyone a huge gift without a sound. That was a slap to the face. It felt so good. Chapter 36:06. As Linny spoke, he turned around and left, leaving Su Lingchong and the others to look at each other in dismay. Their faces were all uglier than the other. He even invited people to come and watch. He didn't mind losing face. This bastard was too King infuriating. It was truly intolerable. Even if they could tolerate it, they couldn't tolerate it. To prevent himself from making a fool of himself, Meng Jueguang waved his hand, indicating for the other newcomers to disperse. Then, he carefully looked at Su Lingchong, who had an ugly expression on his face. Meng Jueguang, as the newcomer manager of Blue Cloud Pavilion, are you just going to watch him be so arrogant? If you don't have the ability, then don't waste your food in this position. I believe that there are people who are willing to stand up and deal with Lin Yi. Su Lingchong looked angrily at Meng Jueguang. Originally, when he heard that Meng Jueguang had kicked Lin Yi to the 10th dead mining area, he thought that he was a talent. But from the looks of it, he was clearly a useless idiot. Seeing that Su Lingchong had turned the spearhead to him in anger, Meng Jueguang instantly threw all his worries to the back of his mind. He was so anxious that his forehead was covered in sweat. He was only a low-level manager. How could he withstand young Master Su's anger? Furthermore, Meng Jueguang had just been accepted by Su Lingchong. If he didn't handle it well, then it would be strange if Su Lingchong would bother with him in the future. Luckily, Meng Jueguang still had the quick-wittedness of a small fry. He rolled his eyes and said, "Young Master Su, don't be anxious. For this Lin Yi to be able to dig out so much good jade in the dead mining area for 2 consecutive days, I think there must be something fishy about it. It's very possible that he found a high quality or spot." Su Lingchong nodded thoughtfully. This analysis made sense. Even if it was the dead mining area number 10, it was only a man-made area. In essence, it was still connected to other high-quality mining areas. Although the jade production rate was very low in the past, it did not mean that there was no good jade. If Lin Yi really found a high-quality mining area by luck, it would not be surprising at all if he dug out good jade in the dead mining area for a few days. Seeing Su Lingchong's approval, Meng Jueguang's spirit was lifted, and he continued to suggest, "So, I think we can transfer him to another mining area for a few days. After we figure out the details of the jade produced in the number 10 mining area, it won't be too late to deal with him. What do you think, young Master Su?" "This is not impossible." Su Lingchong pinched his chin and said, although Su Lingchong wholeheartedly wanted to deal with Lin Yi due to his identity, he could not directly make a move on Lin Yi. Moreover, with his level, even if he wanted to deal with Lin Yi, the method could not be too simple and crude. Otherwise, even if he ended up trapping Lin Yi in the end, he would become the laughingstock of the other young masters and ladies when the news spread. So, since he wanted to deal with Lin Yi, he had to make it so that no one could find fault with it. Although this suggestion of Meng Jueguang would take some time, Su Lingchong still had the patience to wait for a few days. But Su Lingchong, still had the patience to wait for a few days. "Fine, I'll leave this matter to you. If you do well, I'll ask Hu Yunfeng to reward you. But if you mess it up, you'll have to deal with it yourself." Su Lingchong glanced at Meng Jueguang and said, before he could think of a better idea, letting a new manager like Meng Jueguang deal with Lin Yi wasn't a bad move. Meng Jueguang hurriedly patted his chest and guaranteed, "Young Master Su, don't worry. I promise I won't let that brat Lin Yi have it easy. Since that brat is blind enough to provoke our young Master Su, I don't dare to say anything else, but it's more than enough to take care of a lowly person from the secular world. Just wait to suffer in the future." Good. The haze on Su Lingchong's face finally dissipated. He paused for a while and said, "Oh, right. Earlier today, that Lu Bianren from your welcome pavilion wanted to change the mining area for Lin Yi. I met him and taught him a lesson. Just now, I saw that those useless newcomers from Blue Cloud Pavilion were not too convinced by you. If you change the mining area for Lin Yi, you can use this matter to make a fuss." Hearing this, Meng Jueguang's eyes immediately lit up. He hurriedly thanked Su Lingchong and said, "Thank you, young Master Su, for your guidance." Young Master Su is indeed as observant and wise as the rumors say. The leading figure of the new generation of the 3 great pavilions is indeed worthy of his reputation. Ha! What leading figure of the new generation? You sure know how to talk. Hearing this, Su Lingchong couldn't help but be in a good mood. Although he had a strong background and was a famous young master in the 3 great pavilions, it was too much to say that he was a leading figure of the new generation. Although there were very few youngsters who had a stronger background and were stronger than him, there were still some. However, Meng Jueguang's flattery was not wrong. This young master Su really liked to hear this. Meng Jueguang let out a sigh of relief as he watched Su Lingchong lead Kong Xiaoming and Kong Xiaoming away. Even in his dreams, he wanted to curry favor with Master Su Lingchong, but when he was face to face with him, the pressure was as heavy as a mountain. Luckily, he was quick-witted enough to flatter Su Lingchong. Otherwise, it wouldn't be easy to fool Master Su. Ninth cousin brother, what did young Master Su mean just now? What is he trying to do? After Su Lingchong and the others walked far away, Meng Tong turned his head and asked Meng Jueguang in confusion. In front of a young master like Su Lingchong, even Meng Jueguang was scared witless. As a new disciple who was at the lower level, he didn't even dare to breathe too loudly. Meng Jueguang looked at him, then looked at Li Zhengming, who also had a blank expression. He couldn't help but hold his forehead speechlessly and said, "Rottenwood can't be carved. Are your brains filled with paste? You can't even understand such an obvious thing. You're really stupid." After a pause, seeing that the two still didn't understand, Meng Jueguang had to patiently explain. Young Master Su just said that Lu Bianren, the third pavilion head, wanted to change the mining area for Lin Yi, but he didn't because of young Master Su. If I change Lin Yi to the 7th mining area, what do you think the others will do? Meng Tong finally reacted and clapped his hands excitedly. What's more, even the 3rd pavilion, head of the Welcome Pavilion, couldn't do it, but our 9th cousin brother did it. Isn't this a big deal? Li Zhengming also rushed to say, not only that Lin Yi provoked eldest senior brother again and again, but eldest senior brother could still let go of the past and change the mining area for him to the 7th mining area. This is simply returning good for evil. Chapter 36:07. Meng Tong and Li Zhengming finally understood. It turned out that Meng Jueguang's final goal was to take the opportunity to establish his prestige in front of this group of Blue Cloud Pavilion newcomers, as expected of the experienced eldest senior brother steward. This was the true farsightedness of the people. Then, 9th cousin brother, what should we do next? Go directly to Dai Wuchang to exchange the mining area for Lin Yi? Meng Tong scratched his head and asked, No, go to Lin Yi. Meng Jueguang shook his head and said, exchanging mining areas can be a big or small matter. With young Master Su at the top, there won't be any problems with Spirit Jade Hall. But if Lin Yi himself doesn't agree and refuses to sign the contract, no matter what, it will be useless. Exchanging him to the 7th mining area and he still won't agree? Lin Yi won't be so stupid, right? Meng Tong had a surprised look on his face. For any normal person, to be able to change from the 10th to the 7th dead mining area was simply a blessing that could not be cultivated for several lifetimes. How could there be any reason to refuse? As a result, Meng Jueguang looked at him as if he was looking at an idiot. Not so stupid? If he really agreed easily, then he would be stupid. If it was you, you can dig 8 or 10 pieces of good jade in the 10th mining area every day. If someone wants to exchange you to the 7th mining area, you can only dig 6 or 7 pieces of good jade a day. Will you do it? Meng Tong was suddenly speechless. It seemed that wanting Lin Yi to agree to exchanging mining areas was really not an easy thing, so he said weakly, if he refuses, what should we do? Of course, we will lure him. I will tell you in detail at that time. Meng Jueguang glanced at Li Zhengming and said, although Li Zhengming was the first newcomer besides Meng Tong to approach Meng Jueguang, his degree of trust was far less than that of Meng Tong. Firstly, Li Zhengming was not like Meng Tong, who had a natural and reliable relationship with Meng Jueguang. Secondly, Li Zhengming was a bit scheming. Although Meng Tong, this brainless idiot, usually did things unreliable from the perspective of Meng Jueguang, he preferred this kind of simple-minded idiot because this kind of person would not have ideas that should not have. If it was Li Zhengming, it was not certain. On the other side, after Lin Yi returned to the cave residence, he unexpectedly saw two people at the stone table in front of the newcomer's cave residence. One was Senior Brother Bitter. As for the other, although he did not look middle-aged, his temperament revealed a profound understanding of the vicissitudes of the world. It could be seen that his age and experience should not be shallow, but he had never seen them in the welcome pavilion, sitting upright on the stone chair. That person was like an old monk in meditation, but Senior Brother Bitter had to stand up from time to time to look around. Looking at this posture, it seemed that the two of them had been waiting for a long time. Seeing Lin Yi's figure, Senior Brother Bitter hurriedly stood up and waved from afar. "Junior Brother Lin, over here." "Senior Brother Bitter, are you looking for me?" Lin Yi responded and walked forward with a surprised expression. At the same time, he secretly sized up the person sitting upright on the stone chair. "That's right. Come, Junior Brother Lin, let me introduce you. This is our Welcome Pavilion's Pavilion Master Lu. He is also a senior brother from our Blue Cloud Pavilion." Senior Brother Bitter hurriedly introduced to Lin Yi. "This is the legendary third Pavilion Master." Lin Yi's heart skipped a beat. He cupped his hands and greeted. "Greetings, Pavilion Master Lu." "Don't call me Pavilion Master, just call me Senior Brother." Lu Bienren waved his hand dismissively as he looked at Lin Yi from head to toe. Suddenly, a smile appeared on his face as he said, just as Junior Brother Ku said, "Junior Brother Lin is not someone to be trifled with. To be able to recruit a new disciple like Junior Brother Lin, it is our Clear Cloud Pavilion's fortune. You flatter me, Senior Brother Lu." Lin Yi hurriedly waved his hand. Although he had absolute confidence in himself, he still felt a little embarrassed to be praised like this. After all, no matter how powerful he was in the secular world, he was still a newcomer here. There were many people who were stronger than him. I'm not just saying this to get close to you. Junior Brother Lin, you should have heard of my current situation in the Welcome Pavilion. I have nothing to do all day, so I can only look through ancient scriptures to comfort myself. However, I have learned a little about the art of observing people. Whether it is appearance or temperament, Junior Brother Lin, you are not an ordinary person." Lu Bienren laughed. Hearing this, Lin Yi couldn't help but look up to this depressed third pavilion master. It wasn't because of the praise, but because he admired his calmness and open-mindedness in the face of this awkward situation. If it was someone else in Lu Bienren's position, they would more or less have to maintain their high and mighty pavilion master image in front of a newcomer like Lin Yi. At the very least, they would try to cover it up. However, Lu Bienren was not only able to face it calmly, but even had the ability to laugh at himself. After exchanging a few pleasantries, they got down to business. The reason why the two of them were waiting for Lin Yi was actually Lu Bienren's idea. Firstly, he wanted to see this amazing newcomer from the mortal world that his bitter senior brother spoke of. Secondly, they felt that it was necessary to find an opportunity to appease Lin Yi because they didn't have a good start today. Otherwise, if Lin Yi really gave up on himself because he was wasted in mine number 10 for 3 months, then it would truly be a pity. After listening to Senior Brother Ku narrate the situation of the two of them encountering Su Lingchong during the day, besides being surprised, Lin Yi was also rather moved in his heart. In order to find a way to change the mind for him, this bitter Senior Brother Ku could be said to be a sincere and honest person. Lu Bienren, the third pavilion master, was also very kind. With his current situation, leaving the Repent Cliff to run around for him was not a small risk. If great pavilion master Hu Yunfeng were to find out about this, he would be charged with negligence of duty. To Lu Bienren, this was tantamount to adding snow to snow. Junior Brother Lin, although Su Lingchong's threat may not come true for the sake of our Blue Cloud Pavilion, I can't take this risk for you alone. As a senior brother, I am very ashamed, but I still hope that you can understand. Lu Bienren explained, sincerely. Senior brother Ku Bai also had an ashamed expression on his face, deeply hating that he was powerless. Senior brother Lu, you're exaggerating. Going to mine number 10 is my own choice. If you bring disaster to Blue Cloud Pavilion just to change the mine for me, then I will really feel uneasy. Lin Yi hurriedly waved his hand. Chapter 3608. Thank you, senior brothers, for your kindness. I can't thank you enough, but Lin Yi thought for a while and decided to tell them what had happened in the past few days. They would find out sooner or later anyway, so they wouldn't worry about him anymore. Senior brothers, you probably don't know this, but even though I was assigned to the number 10 dead mine, I still dug up a lot of good jade these 2 days. In the long run, it shouldn't be a problem to dig up 8 to 10 pieces a day, so it's not a waste of time. What? You dug up 8 to 10 pieces a day? Lu Bienren and senior brother Ku Bai were shocked and looked at each other in disbelief. Both of them had explored the number 10 mine before, so they knew exactly what it was like inside. Good jade was an extravagant dream, and it would be lucky if they could dig up 10 to 20 pieces of waste jade a day. Therefore, in order to avoid provoking Lin Yi, senior brother Ku Bai didn't even dare to ask him about the situation for the past 2 days. He was afraid that he wouldn't dig up a piece of good jade in 2 days, which would cause both of them to feel awkward. Although I'm also very surprised. Maybe the mine that senior brother Ku Bai found for me is a rare high-quality mine that can produce a lot of good jade, so you two don't have to worry about me anymore. Lin Yi said with a smile. Of course, he wouldn't tell them his trump card. Saying that it was a high-quality mine was enough reason. Presumably, Meng Jueguang and the others also thought so. Really? Although there are a lot of waste jade in that mine that looks good, I haven't seen many pieces of good jade. Senior brother Ku Bai was confused. The mine that he found for Lin Yi was indeed a rare high-yield mine in the number 10 dead mine, but it was too exaggerated that it could produce 8 to 10 pieces of good jade a day. He had helped Lin Yi dig up a few pieces before, but he had never encountered such a good thing. Maybe senior brother Ku Bai didn't dig deep enough, and now I've gotten a bargain. Lin Yi had to lie. That's possible. Maybe this mine of yours is hidden quite deep, and it's connected to the other high-quality mines. Lu Bienren nodded, and immediately let out a sigh of relief. In any case, if you can keep digging out good jade, then these 3 months won't be a waste. This is great news. The bitter senior marshal brother also said, excitedly, if you can dig out 8 or 10 pieces a day, then junior marshal brother Lin, you should be able to earn 7 or 8 pieces of spiritual jades in 3 months. It will be very beneficial for your future cultivation. 7 or 8 pieces of spiritual jades. My goal is $140. Based on 2 yuan a day, it would be at least 140 yuan in 3 months. Lin Yi snickered in his heart, but he still nodded repeatedly on the surface. In fact, for a newcomer, 7 or 8 pieces of spirit jades was not a small amount. Since junior brother Lin is doing well, then we can rest assured. If there's anything you need in the future, feel free to ask junior brother Ku. You can also find me at the Repent Cliff. It was getting late. We'll take our leave first, Lu Bienren said, and left with the bitter senior marshal brother. After sending the 2 off, Lin Yi was about to turn around and return to his cave abode when he saw 2 people walking towards him from afar. They even waved at him. It was Meng Jueguang and Meng Tong. Lin Yi couldn't help but be amused. What day was it today? Why did everyone come to look for him? Although he didn't like the 2 of them, Meng Jueguang was still the eldest senior marshal brother in charge. Lin Yi couldn't ignore them, so he stopped and waited for the 2 of them. Senior marshal brother Meng, what instructions do you have for me? As they approached, Meng Jueguang asked Meng Tong to chase the newcomers who stuck their heads out to look back into the cave abode. He led Lin E to a secluded corner and said, "Junior brother Lin E, there's a misunderstanding between us. And that's why I lost my temper earlier. That's why I assigned you to the number 10 dead mining area. I admit that I've been unkind in this matter. But now I understand that there isn't any deep hatred between us. You're a newcomer to Blue Cloud Pavilion, and I'm a senior steward of Blue Cloud Pavilion. There's no reason for us to make our relationship so tense, am I right?" What kind of thinking was that? Was Meng Jueguang insane? Was this a sign of reconciliation? However, Lin Yi did not believe that he would be so kind. So when he heard this, Lin Yi nodded non-committally, but in his heart, he was thinking, what kind of play is this eldest senior martial brother playing? With Meng Jueguang's usual tough and overbearing style of handling things, there was no reason for him to take the initiative to say these things. Lin Yi did not think that this guy would sincerely want to reconcile with him, unless the sun rose from the west. There must be something fishy about this matter. Seeing Lin Yi's expression, Meng Jueguang laughed and said, "I know that junior martial brother Lin Yi doesn't believe me, but it's okay. To judge whether my words are sincere, you can just watch my next action. To express my apology and sincerity, I've decided to change you to the number 7 mine. What do you think?" Change me to the number 7 mine? Lin Yi suddenly understood. It turned out that this was the main point. How was this guy here to reconcile? It was obvious that he saw that Lin Yi had dug out 8 or 10 pieces of good jade in 2 days, so he couldn't sit still. "That's right, junior martial brother Lin. You've also stayed in the number 10 mine for 2 days. You should be clear about the situation inside. Don't think that you're lucky and dug out a few pieces of good jade in the past 2 days. In the long run, you can't have such good luck every day, right? In terms of jade yield, although the number 7 mine is not a good mine, it's much better than the number 10 mine," Meng Jueguang persuaded earnestly. "Maybe my luck is always this good." Lin Yi raised his eyebrows and looked at him. He smiled faintly and asked, "You've heard, right? They all said that I was lucky to rush to the heavenly island from a rogue cultivator." "Humph, a moment of luck is understandable. But have you ever seen anyone who is lucky all the time? After so many years, I guess your luck is almost used up." Meng Jueguang's face immediately turned cold. He curled his lips and said, "You know Pavilion Master Lu and Junior Martial Brother Ku, right? In the past, both of them were extremely lucky, receiving the favor of one of our Clear Cloud Pavilion's Vice Pavilion Lords. Not only were they given a lot of good cultivation resources, they were even promoted. But now, their backer, this Deputy Pavilion Master, went to carry out a mission. His life or death is unknown. There's no news about him. So, their luck has come to an end. That's why people can't believe in luck too much. By the way, speaking of these 2 people, I saw Pavilion Master Lu and Junior Martial Brother Ku when I came here. You should know that these 2 people wanted to find Dai Wuchang to help you change the mine during the day. In the end, they didn't because of young Master Su, right?" Chapter 3609. Meng Jueguang sneered. "Then you should understand your current situation, right? Exchanging mining areas can be a big or small matter. It's not something that can be done by just anyone. It requires a strong network. To tell you the truth, I, Meng Jueguang, can definitely do what those 2 people can't do. This is the only chance. If you miss this chance, you won't get it again." Lin Yi couldn't help but laugh. It was obvious that this guy couldn't wait to move him out, but he still put on a posture of doing him a favor. Sure enough, a cheap person had a cheap trick. He immediately shook his head and said, "Although the 7th mining area is better, I can not only dig up good jade in the 10th mining area, but there are also fewer people there. I like this kind of secluded place, so I appreciate Big Senior Brother's kindness, but I can't do it. He had now figured out the trick of stealing spiritual jades in the 10th mining area. If it was changed to the 7th mining area, which was more closely monitored, although it was easier to dig up spiritual jades, at least he would have to explore the environment again. It was still uncertain whether he could continue to steal spiritual jades as smoothly as he did now. This kind of stupid thing, like losing a watermelon and picking up a sesame seed, was not something that Lin Yi would do. Moreover, there were more good jades in the 7th mining area and less useless jades, so it would be even more difficult to operate. It seems that junior brother Lin Yi still doesn't believe me. Meng Jueguang shook his head, pretending to be sad. In fact, he had already expected that Lin Yi would not agree. In fact, even if he was in Lin Yi's position, he would not agree so easily unless he saw enough benefits. After saying this, Lin Yi thought that the other party would give up. Unexpectedly, not only did Meng Jueguang not leave in a huff, but he also gave Meng Tong, who was guarding at the side, a look. Meng Tong understood and came over with a black bag. From the beginning, Lin Yi had already noticed this bag, but he didn't know what it was for. He didn't expect that the things in the bag were actually prepared for him. It doesn't matter if you don't believe me, but after seeing these things in the bag, I think junior brother Lin Yi won't doubt my sincerity anymore. Meng Jueguang laughed and took the bag from Meng Tong's hand. He deliberately opened the bag and waved it in front of Lin Yi's eyes. Lin Yi narrowed his eyes. Although the sky was already dark, he could clearly see the contents of the bag with the help of the moonlight. It was pure white and filled to the brim with spiritual jades. Roughly estimating, there were at least 15 pieces of spirit jades in the bag. What is the meaning of this, eldest senior brother? Lin Yi narrowed his eyes and looked at Meng Jueguang playfully. If it was just to get him to agree to the change of mind, but to use so many spiritual jades without hesitation, this was a little too extravagant. If Lin Yi had given Meng Jueguang a gift in order to be transferred from the 10th to the 7th mining area, although he wouldn't have given so many spiritual jades, it was still logical. However, the current situation was exactly the opposite. Not only did Meng Jueguang take the initiative to ask for Lin Yi to change to the 7th mining area, but he was also willing to spend so much money. Moreover, he didn't even hesitate to put out such a large sum of money. This matter just didn't make sense. There are 16 pieces of spiritual jades in this bag. As long as you agree to the change of mind, these are all yours. What do you think? Meng Jueguang and Meng Tong looked at each other. Their eyes were filled with sincerity and expectation. In fact, if it wasn't Lin Yi but any other newcomer, they would definitely be tempted by so many spiritual jades. In the face of so many spirit jades, one would definitely be tempted. In fact, it would be normal for one to lose their composure on the spot. As the saying goes, money moves people's hearts. In the secular world, ordinary people would sell everything for money. But for cultivators like them, the temptation of spiritual jades was even greater. Moreover, in the eyes of ordinary people, changing from the 10th mining area to the 7th mining area was a good thing. Under such circumstances, if Lin Yi still didn't agree, then there must be something wrong with his brain. However, what made Meng Jueguang and Meng Tong disappointed was that Lin Yi didn't have any obvious reaction after seeing so many spiritual jades. He didn't even look at them for a second. There was no sign of reluctance. Could it be that this guy saw something fishy about the spiritual jades? Meng Jueguang's heart skipped a beat as he tried to tempt Lin Yi. Junior brother Lin, think about it. Even if you could dig 10 pieces of jade a day in the 10th mine, you'd only be able to earn 3 pieces of spirit jade a month at most. 16 pieces of spirit jade would be equivalent to half a year's worth of your mining income. For newcomers like you, the half a year saved is very precious. I don't think I need to be long-winded, right? Ninth cousin brother, since he doesn't even want the spiritual jades that are delivered to him, why don't you give me all these spiritual jades? Why don't you give me all these spirit jades and transfer me to the 10th mine as well? I'll do nothing and keep an eye on him every day. I want to see how this guy excavates such good jades. Meng Tong chimed in from the side. Meng Jueguang had already taught him this set of words before. Otherwise, he wouldn't have had the brains to do it alone. Lin Yi's heart skipped a beat. Putting everything else aside, Meng Tong's words had hit his Achilles heel. If this guy really did what he said and came to the 10th mine to keep an eye on him, then things would be troublesome. Meng Tong checked the spiritual jades, one by one. How did Lin Yi do it? Lin Yi's heart raced, but he could only pretend to be moved. Then he said hesitantly, 16 spiritual jades is a big deal. Senior brother, you're not just doing this for me, right? I don't think there's such a good thing. There's no such thing as a free lunch. Lin Yi's reaction was the most normal reaction of a calm and rational person. If Lin Yi couldn't wait to agree, then it would be abnormal. Hee. Junior brother Lin Yi is indeed the best among the newcomers. You're really cautious. Meng Jueguang laughed and said, You're right. I'm giving you these 16 spiritual jades for another thing besides making you agree to the mining area. But don't worry, it's just a small matter. I won't make things difficult for you. What is it? Lin Yi asked. I remember that when I gave you the spiritual jades a few days ago, you got the smallest piece. It should be the size of an egg. I wonder if Junior Lin Yi has used it these days? Meng Jueguang stared at Lin Yi and said, Not yet. Why? Lin Yi couldn't help but be moved. How did this guy get his eyes on this spiritual jade? Was there something special about it? Chapter 3610. Putting aside the matter of exchanging minds, anyone with a normal IQ would know how to choose 16 pieces of spiritual jades for one small spiritual jade. Meng Jueguang thought that he had finally achieved his goal. However, what Lin Yi said next almost made him spit out a mouthful of blood. Not exchanging. F*CK. Still not exchanging. Are you F*King crazy? Before Meng Jueguang could speak, Meng Tong had already jumped to his feet. 16 pieces of spiritual jades for one small spiritual jade, and he was still hesitating. This Lin Yi was simply crazy. Shut up! Meng Jueguang glared at him fiercely. Then he turned to Lin Yi and said, Why don't you want to exchange? Don't tell me that Junior Lin Yi doesn't trust me? Lin Yi looked at him playfully and said lightly, 16 pieces of spiritual jades for one small spiritual jade. Even a fool can see that there is something wrong with it. So why should I exchange? Perhaps this small spiritual jade of mine is special, and its value is far more than 16 pieces. Hey, I took care of you and gave you benefits. Not only did you not appreciate it, but you also think that you are a rare commodity? After Meng Jueguang reacted, he immediately burst into laughter and said disdainfully, Don't indulge in fantasy, kid. Apart from the small size of your small spiritual jade, there is nothing special about it. If it wasn't for me taking care of you, your small spiritual jade would at most be worth half a piece of spiritual jade. You want it to be more than 16 pieces? What a fool's dream. Since there is nothing special about it, why do you still want to exchange so many spiritual jades with me? Could it be that your spiritual jades are worthless? Lin Yi asked in reply. In fact, in the few days that he had obtained the small spiritual jade, apart from its size, there was nothing different about it from other spiritual jades. However, if someone said that there was nothing fishy about it, Lin Yi would definitely not believe it. You can eat whatever you want, but you can't say whatever you want. Meng Jueguang's complexion suddenly changed, and he said righteously, Heaven Stage Island strictly forbids the trade of scrap jade in the market. Not to mention that junior apprentice brother Lin E has already mined for 2 days, so you should know the situation of Spirit Jade Hall. Waste jades have always been piled up in the mine to continue to absorb the spiritual chi of heaven and earth. Not a single piece is allowed to be released. How could I possibly have so many waste jades in my hands? Lin Yi looked at him non-committally. Although what Meng Jueguang said was not a lie, it was not entirely true. At most, it could only be used to deceive newcomers. It was true that Heaven Stage Island forbade trading with scrap jade, but it was the same as counterfeit money in the secular world. It could be banned on the surface, but it was impossible to completely stop the transactions in private. Of course, for cultivators, it was very easy to distinguish good jade and waste jade. Therefore, the success rate of using waste jade to pass off as pearls was not high. Therefore, under normal circumstances, people would consume all the spiritual energy in the spiritual jade and would not deliberately waste spiritual energy to leave behind waste jade. Therefore, for the vast majority of people, it was normal to have 1 or 2 pieces of waste jade that had not been used up, but it was very rare to have accumulated as many as 16 pieces. It was just that it was not very possible for others, but for Meng Jueguang, who deliberately wanted to cheat Lin Yi, it was not impossible. Moreover, he had a wide network in Spirit Jade Hall. It was not difficult to get a few pieces of waste jade. Afraid that Lin Yi would continue to ask questions and expose himself, Meng Jueguang quickly dispelled his doubts and said, "Forget it, lest you be suspicious. I'll tell you the truth. The reason why I spent so much money to exchange for your little spiritual jade, in addition to you agreeing to exchange the mine, is mainly because I was entrusted by someone to use your spiritual jade to make a jade carving." Jade carving? Lin Yi was stunned. This kind of thing was very common in the secular world. However, although the spiritual jade was also of excellent quality because it was filled with the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, its quality was rather hard. Using it to make a jade carving should not be easy. Yes, you also know that spiritual jade, full of spiritual energy, is very hard, and it is very difficult to cut it. However, if the spiritual energy inside is consumed, the quality of the jade will decline. Therefore, if you want to use spiritual jade to make a jade carving, you must use primitive spiritual jade of similar size. In the jade mine, these spirit jades all have their own meridians. Every time you mine a piece, its size is determined according to its original broken meridians. You can't smash it as big as you want. Therefore, small jades are more suitable for carving. Even an expert at the peak of the late stage of foundation establishment would find it difficult to completely cut a large one. Meng Jueguang glanced at Lin Yi and continued, "After a while, it will be the birthday of the only granddaughter of Soaring Sky Pavilion Master, our Blue Cloud Pavilion Elder Zhao's grandson. Zhao Yu wants to find someone to carve a personal jade rabbit as a birthday gift. Therefore, he has been looking for people to collect spiritual jades the size of eggs. Now he has come to me. I thought that you happened to have such a small spiritual jade, so I wanted to exchange with you. Now you know the cause and effect." Lin Yi nodded slightly. This explanation did not seem to be empty talk. After all, apart from the small size of his spiritual jade, there was nothing special about it. Apart from using it to make jade carvings, it did not have much use. However, from another point of view, Xiao Hongkai and Xiao Rance jades were not big either. Wouldn't it be easier for him to threaten them? Why did he need to find a troublemaker like him? Therefore, Lin Yi still did not believe him. Seeing this, Meng Jueguang quickly struck while the iron was hot and said, "This kind of small spiritual jade is actually useless in the hand, and although this size is rare, as long as you go out and ask around, you will be able to find it. Senior brother, I spent so much money to buy this piece of yours. This is completely taking care of you. Again, if you miss this opportunity, There will be no shop like this again. If you are not willing, I will turn around and find someone else without a second word. Lin Yi pondered for a moment, then said, You want to exchange this spiritual jade of mine? Yes, I want 30 pieces. Meng Jueguang listened to the first half of the sentence with some joy, but after hearing the second half, he was immediately shocked and angry. Beside him, Meng Tong could not help but jump and said, F***CK, you bastard, you are raising the price. Meng Jueguang hesitated for a moment, then said, 17 pieces, no more. Lin Yi, you have to think carefully. You are not the only one who has a spiritual jade. Don't go too far. 28. Lin Yi said faintly, 18 pieces. If it was any other time, Meng Jueguang would not have fallen out with him, but at least he would have left in a huff. However, seeing that his plan was about to succeed, he could not bear to waste all his previous efforts, so he gritted his teeth and continued to increase the price. 26 pieces. Lin Yi continued to say with a straight face, and looking at his posture, he seemed to be very interested in continuing to waste time. Chapter 36:11. He hesitated for a moment, then threw the spiritual jades into the black bag with 16 pieces of spiritual jades, placed it on the stone table beside him, and pushed it towards Lin Yi, saying, 20 pieces, not a single piece more. Either you nod your head and make a deal, or forget it. Do as you see fit. Then forget it. Lin Yi looked at the other party with a playful look, then turned his head and walked away. Anyway, even if he did not make a deal, there was no loss for him. In the future, he could continue to mine in the 10th mining area, keep the spiritual jades, and live as usual. Even if Meng Jueguang asked Meng Tong to monitor him, it would only be for a while. To monitor him for 3 months, Meng Tong would have to stop cultivating, and also forget about the spiritual jades. He was willing, but Meng Tong himself was not. Damn, this was a full 20 pieces of spiritual jades, and he just said he did not want it. This guy was really a free and easy bachelor. Meng Jueguang and Meng Tong were both stunned. When Lin Yi was about to walk back to the cave residence, Meng Jueguang suddenly reacted, and with a helpless expression, he shouted, 25 pieces. Lin Yi smiled slightly, stopped, and turned back. Deal. Seeing Meng Jueguang take out another 5 pieces of spiritual jades from his sleeve and put them in the bag, Lin Yi then took out his own small spiritual jade. However, when it was time to make the exchange, Meng Jueguang suddenly took back the bag of spiritual jades and placed a piece of paper on the stone table. He pouted at Lin Yi and said, Since it's a deal, then sign it first. Lin Yi glanced at it. This was the exclusive mining area contract of Spirit Jade Hall. In order to not let him go back on his word, this eldest senior brother had made full preparations. As long as he signed it, even if he went back on his word later, he would not be able to not change the mining area. Hee, isn't it just digging a hole for me to jump into? This act is quite decent. Lin Yi couldn't help but laugh. He didn't say any nonsense and directly signed the contract. Only then did Meng Jueguang let go of the black bag and took the little spirit jade from Lin Yi. In that case, many thanks for senior brother Meng's care. Lin Yi smiled and carried a heavy bag of 25 pieces of spirit jades. He turned around and left. He watched as Lin Yi walked back into the cave. Only then did Meng Jueguang and Meng Tong looked at each other and let out a long breath. This kid is really not a fuel-efficient lamp. It's really not easy to fool him once. Fortunately, I brought so many waste jades in case of accidents. Otherwise, it would really be hard to get off the tiger. This bag of spirit jades that he gave to Lin Yi were all waste jades that he brought out from Spirit Jade Hall through his connections. It was for the sake of tricking Lin Yi. Otherwise, how would he be so generous to give way to Lin Yi? Hee, that kid is still complacent, and thinks that he has taken advantage of it. In fact, he is a downright idiot. When he finds out that these are all waste jades, I want to see what kind of wonderful expression he will have tomorrow. Meng Tong said with a smile at the side. These 25 pieces of waste jades seemed to be a lot, but in fact, they were all a thin layer of energy on the surface. The core in the middle was the waste jades. So even if there were a lot of them, if the energy added together was 1/10 of that egg-sized good spirit jade, one would have to burn incense to thank the gods. So at this moment, in the view of Meng Jueguang and Meng Tong, Lin Yi was absolutely cheated by the two of them this time. Not only did he foolishly agree to exchange the mining area, but he also took out a piece of small spirit jade. It was simply a double loss. To think that he still had a shrewd look when making the transaction. This kind of self-righteous idiot. It was simply the only one in the world. Returning to the cave, Lin Yi took out the 25 pieces of spirit jades and examined them one by one. He suddenly understood in his heart. It was the same as his previous guess. These 25 pieces were all waste jades with only a trace of spiritual qi. In fact, this was also a very normal thing, given his relationship with Meng Jueguang. Even if Meng Jueguang's story of searching for small spirit jades was true, such a good thing would never fall into Lin Yi's hands. 25 pieces of good spirit jade for a piece of low spirit jade. Lin Yi never believed in such a good thing. However, although Meng Jueguang used 25 pieces of waste jades to exchange for his own small spirit jade, it did seem to be a big loss. For Lin Yi, who was sitting in the space of the jade pendant, this was exactly what he wanted. Otherwise, he would not have foolishly agreed after guessing the other party's intentions. Since the space of the jade pendant could quickly charge the spirit jade, any piece of waste jades in Lin Yi's hands would be thoroughly good jades. Not to mention 25 pieces of waste jades for one. Even if it was 2 pieces of waste jades for one, it would still be a profit for him. What Lin Yi needed now was this kind of superficial waste jades, compared to working hard every day in the mining area and only being able to steal 2 pieces of spirit jade. Meng Jueguang's plot to cheat him was simply a good person who delivered goods to his doorstep. 25 pieces of waste jades were equivalent to Lin Yi's results in less than half a month. It would be better if he did it a few more times. In contrast, the matter of changing the mining area was not worth mentioning. In any case, Lin Yi's previous good jades were not really dug out by luck. With the space of the jade pendant, this cheating artifact, he could dig out good jades wherever he went. Moreover, from the results of Meng Tong and Li Zhongming's daily mining, the 7th mining area not only produced good jades, but the probability of digging out a superficial waste jades was also significantly higher. In this way, as long as Lin Yi was familiar with the environment and the distribution of guards there, it would be easier to steal spirit jade than in the 10th mining area. On the morning of the 2nd day, Lin Yi went to Spirit Jade Hall to report. As usual, he happened to meet Meng Jueguang and Meng Tong at the door, so he calmly stepped forward to greet them. "Good morning, senior brother Meng." "Good morning." Meng Jueguang carefully looked at Lin Yi's expression, but did not find any trace of unusual expression on his face. He could not help looking at Meng Tong in surprise. Could it be that this guy still did not find out the trick in those spirit jades? Because Meng Jueguang had already informed Dai Wuchang and the others, Lin Yi smoothly exchanged the pass token of the 7th mining area. Without saying a word, he entered the mine tunnel. From beginning to end, he did not say a word to these 2 people, and did not show any unusual behavior. Looking at this kid's reaction, it should be that he has not found out that the bag is full of waste jades. Otherwise, he absolutely would not be so calm. Meng Jueguang turned his head and muttered to Meng Tong. Previously looking at this guy's performance, I still felt that he was quite shrewd. It turns out that this is all a facade. A whole night passed, and he still hasn't found that bag of waste jades. Even a pig is not so slow, simply more stupid than a pig. Meng Tong gloated and laughed. Chapter 36:12. Then he continued, that's 25 pieces of spiritual jades. For ordinary people, it's like a windfall from the sky. It's just like what they say in the secular world, winning 5 million in the lottery. It's normal for him not to react overnight. What's more, the excuse I gave him yesterday was reasonable, and it wasn't a lie. If he doesn't believe it, then he'll be crazy. That's true. We racked our brains to set such a trap for him. If this kid reacted so quickly, then he'd be letting down Cousin Gio's efforts. Meng Tong nodded in agreement. Hey, maybe this kid will be like this for the next few days. He thought he'd become a local tycoon with 25 pieces of spiritual jades, but in the end, he found out that it's just a pile of useless jade. Ha ha ha. The higher the expectation, the more miserable the fall. His expression will be wonderful then, Meng Jueguang said with some complacency. Ever since the first day the newbies reported in, he and Lin Yi had never gained any advantage in direct or indirect confrontations. On the contrary, it was him, the steward, who had been humiliated quite a bit. Even when Lin Yi was kicked to the 10th mining area by him, he still managed to make a name for himself in the end, making him lose all face. But this time, Lin Yi had truly been tricked by him. Not only did he change the mine, but he'd also lost a good piece of jade. He'd been tricked so badly that his face was covered in blood. For the steward, Meng Jueguang, playing with Lin Yi, this troublesome newcomer, was far more satisfying than cleaning up the other fence-sitters. This was the scene he had been looking forward to for a long time. If these two people knew that not only did they not cheat Lin Yi, but they even gave Lin Yi a big gift, it was really hard to know what expression they would have. Of course, as long as Lin Yi didn't say it himself, these two people would never know the truth for the rest of their lives. It was estimated that they would continue to be complacent. Walking along mine number 7, the environment was almost the same, even though it was a winding tunnel. However, Lin Yi could clearly feel the difference between this place and mine number 10. Not only was mine tunnel number 10 more remote and secluded than mine tunnel number 7, but there weren't as many people in mine tunnel number 10. Compared to mine tunnel number 10, where there was not a single living person to be seen, mine tunnel number 7 was quite lively. From time to time, they would see other people of the same trade. As a matter of fact, mines like mine number 7, which was ranked below average, had the highest number of people among all the mines. After all, he was a miner. In addition to pure newcomers like Lin Yi, the main group was the previous newcomers who had not successfully reached the foundation establishment stage in the welcoming pavilion. According to the rules, they could not directly join the 3 great pavilions. Instead, they could only work hard in places like the Spirit Jade Mine while seeking a breakthrough. Compared to the soaring pavilion with a deep background and the powerful, mysterious pavilion, the group of grassroots rogue cultivators from Blue Cloud Pavilion was more likely to fail to reach the foundation establishment stage. The number of laborers assigned to the mining areas was also higher. As for the mining areas ranked higher, although the jade production rate was higher, those areas were allocated to the Soaring Sky Pavilion and Profound Secrets Pavilion. Compared to the Clear Cloud Pavilion's Mining Area 7, the number of laborers assigned to them was naturally lower. After arriving at mine number 7, Lin Yi looked around and found an empty mine to start working. He didn't plan to steal the hidden spirit jades today. His main purpose was to scout and familiarize himself with the environment. After all, including the 25 pieces that Meng Jueguang had given him yesterday, Lin Yi now had a total of 31 pieces of spirit jades on hand. It was enough for him to buy several sets of alchemy ingredients. It could be said that he was not in urgent need of spirit jades in a short period of time, so he could take it slow and steady. While mining, Lin Yi kept an eye on his surroundings. Soon, he obtained several pieces of useful information. First, the strictness of the surveillance in mine number 7 far exceeded that in mine number 10. Although the two mining areas were about the same in terms of area, there were only 2 guards in total in mining area 10, while there were 10 guards in mining area 7. Not only were there fixed sentries, but there were also specialized patrols. It was such a dense surveillance. With such intensive surveillance, a normal heaven stage expert would not be able to do anything. To have such crooked thoughts was simply courting death. Second, there were a lot of people in mine number 7. In the huge mine number 7, there were dozens of scattered mining sites. Other than a few that no one paid attention to, there were at least 1 or 2 people mining. There were at least 1 or 2 people mining at each of the other mines. Some popular mines even had 4 or 5 people surrounding them. This was simply not digging for spirit jades, but snatching spirit jades. Third, the jade extraction rate in mine number 7 was indeed much higher than that of mine number 10. In less than an hour, Lin Yi had already dug out 6 pieces of spirit jades. 2 of them were pure, useless jades. Following the method of the people beside him, they were directly thrown into the empty space behind them. There would be specialized guards who would collect them. 3 of them were useless jades with thin spiritual energy. As for the last one, it was actually a good jade, full of spiritual energy. This jade extraction speed was simply incomparable to the one in mine number 10 2 days ago. Lin Yi nodded secretly. Comparing people to people, one would die. It could be seen that Spirit Jade Hall's division of mining sites was very reasonable. As he was looking around, a loud noise suddenly came from the side. Lin Yi could not help but turn his head to look, and unexpectedly found a familiar face. Because the other Blue Cloud Pavilion newcomers were all assigned to mine number 8 by Meng Jueguang, and Meng Jueguang and Meng Tong did not appear, Lin Yi did not recognize any of the dozens of people in mine number 7. There was only one exception, Li Zhengming. From the first day until now, other than hugging Meng Jueguang's thigh, Li Zhengming did not have any special performance. It felt like he was purely Meng Jueguang and Meng Tong's follower, and there was nothing outstanding about him. However, the impression this person gave Lin Yi was far from being transparent. On the contrary, this person was very scheming. If one had to say, he was much more difficult to deal with than a brainless guy like Meng Tong. However, this Li Zhengming only catered to Meng Jueguang and Meng Tong from beginning to end, and never took the initiative to make things difficult for Lin Yi. As long as the well water did not interfere with the river water, Lin Yi could not be bothered to waste energy to pay attention to him. The loud noise just now came from where Li Zhengming was. As for the surrounding people, whether they were guards or miners, they all turned a deaf ear to it, as if they were already used to it. Chapter 36:13. In the next moment, Lin Yi quickly understood why there was such a movement. It turned out that Li Zhengming was not like the others who were mining honestly. Instead, he used the jade shovel in his hand as a weapon and attacked the mining spot with all his might, revealing his strength as a peak late stage, heaven stage. It's just mining. Do you have to be so exaggerated? Is this guy crazy? Lin Yi couldn't help but roll his eyes. Although Li Zhengming's posture looked awesome. After all, it was a peak late stage, heaven stage expert's full power. The problem was that the spirit jade was a hard existence that even a foundation establishment expert couldn't break. Even the other ores around were extremely hard. Li Zhengming looked like he was risking his life, but in fact, it was a waste of energy. It was far more efficient than using normal mining techniques. In Lin Yi's view, Li Zhengming was definitely not a fool. After trying this kind of thing once or twice, it would be easy to come to a conclusion. However, to his surprise, after Li Zhengming calmed down for a while, he immediately performed the same act again. It was as if he had some deep hatred for the mining spot. Once he recovered, he would attack with all his might. Could this guy really be sick? As soon as this thought appeared, it was eliminated by Lin Yi himself. No expert who could get to the heaven stage would be a real fool. Li Zhengming must have a special intention for doing this deliberately. Could it be that he was using the mining time to practice some special martial arts? Lin Yi thoughtfully looked at the opponent up and down, but it didn't seem like it. This kind of deliberate feeling was more like he was showing off his peak late-stage, heaven-stage strength from time to time. However, he was just a peak late-stage heaven stage. Looking at the whole scene, including the guards and miners, this strength was probably at the bottom. What was there to show off? Could it be? Thinking of his own situation, Lin Yi suddenly thought of something and carefully observed Li Zhengming like never before. Only then did he finally realize that the reason this guy kept bragging about his peak late-stage heaven rank strength was to hide his strength. If it wasn't for this deliberate action that aroused Lin Yi's curiosity, even if Lin Yi had the ability to see through the strength of experts below the heaven rank great perfection, he might not have noticed that Li Zhengming, who appeared to be at the peak of the heaven rank, was actually a heaven rank great perfection expert. In fact, if it wasn't for Lin Yi's habit of hiding his strength, others wouldn't even think in this direction. Who would have thought that he was a sky-class late-phase peak guy who was constantly showing off his strength? So it turned out to be a perfect heaven rank late-phase peak. But why did this Li Zhengming deliberately hide his strength? Lin Yi was a little puzzled. The reason why he deliberately hid his early-stage foundation establishment strength was because he was unfamiliar with this place after coming to Heaven Rank Island. Moreover, there were new and old enemies like Su Lingchong, Meng Jueguang, and Kang Mingming. Hiding his strength was to allow himself to always maintain the initiative and not be tricked to death by these enemies. But after these days of observation, this Li Zhengming was not like him who was in the limelight. Instead, it could be said that he was a low-key and transparent figure. There were no enemies eyeing him covetously, and the strength of a heaven-rank great perfection was not very outstanding among the newcomers in the welcome pavilion. Was there a need to hide his strength in this cultivation world where the strong were respected? But even if he was puzzled, it had nothing to do with him anyway. Lin Yi was not interested in meddling in other people's business. His current task was to familiarize himself with the mining area and then try to steal the hidden spirit jade. As for this Li Zhengming, who cared why he hid his strength? Anyway, it was fine as long as he couldn't threaten him. Apart from this Li Zhengming, there was another thing that made Lin Yi quite concerned. It had already been 2 hours since they started working. He did not see the figures of Meng Jueguang and Meng Tong. But after thinking about it, the corner of Lin Yi's mouth could not help but reveal a trace of a playful smile. These two people did everything possible to get him to the 7th mining area, but they did not appear for a long time. From the looks of it, they should be going to the 10th mining area. Maybe these two people wanted to find the secret of him digging up so many good jades in 2 consecutive days. Lin Yi could only say, take your time to look for it. If you can dig up good jades, you two are awesome. Not only is it awesome, it is really awesome. As a matter of fact, as Lin Yi expected, Meng Jueguang and Meng Tong really went to the 10th mining area. Just like what Lin Yi had said to Lu Bianren and senior brother Ku Bai, based on the summary of the situation 2 days ago, these two people had already determined that Lin Yi found a high-quality mining area in the 10th mining area with an extremely high jade yield rate, especially a high probability of producing good jades. In terms of quality, this mining area could completely suppress the 7th mining area. In fact, for a senior brother like Meng Jueguang, who was in charge. Digging up 8 or 10 pieces of good jades a day was nothing to make a fuss about. It was even more impossible for him to be tempted. But the problem was that this was the 10th mining area that was sparsely guarded. Although the jade production rate of the 7th mining area was not bad, the security was tight, under the watchful eyes of everyone. Even if he, Meng Jueguang, was more quick-witted, it would be hard for him to do anything. However, it was different in this dead mining area. With his connections in the Spirit Jade Hall, it was absolutely easy for him to do anything here. The reason why he did not have any ideas about this place before was purely because there was no good jade to be dug up here. But if he found a mining area with a quality that was not inferior to the 7th mining area, the significance would be completely different. As long as the operation was done well, Meng Jueguang was completely confident that he could manage this place into his personal spiritual jade mine. As long as he had a lot of spiritual jades, wouldn't it be just around the corner in the future? Of course, the top priority was to confirm that there was indeed a good mining area here. So after Meng Jueguang and Meng Tong arrived at the 10th mining area, they asked the guards carefully and then went straight to the mining area where Lin Yi had dug before. What is this situation? What is Meng Jueguang, the supervisor of the Welcome Pavilion, doing here in this dead mining area? Could it be that this newbie named Meng Tong has offended him so much that he personally came here to supervise the work? Doesn't look like it. The 2 guards were confused. They were only responsible for providing the weighing account book as proof of comparison during the weighing. As for how many pieces of good jade and how many pieces of waste jade were produced, it had nothing to do with them. Moreover, the idea that there was no good jade in the 10th mining area had always been deeply rooted. So these 2 guards did not know that Lin Yi had handed in a total of 18 pieces of good jade 2 days ago. Chapter 36:14. Meng Tong had already prepared his jade shovel and was itching to try. Even if he really found a high-quality mine here, Meng Jueguang might not give him many spiritual jades in the future. However, Meng Jueguang was his biggest backer. As long as Meng Jueguang made a meteoric rise, his status would naturally rise as well. Even though Meng Tong's brain was not very bright, he still had this little bit of survival wisdom. Meng Tong waved his arms and dug with all his might. However, the reality was completely different from what he had imagined. After working hard for an hour, he only managed to dig out 2 pieces of spirit jade. Moreover, both of them were useless pieces of jade that only had the appearance of being of good quality. Meng Jueguang finally could not sit still anymore. This was a matter of great importance to his future. Ever since he deduced this conclusion, his ambition depended on this mine to be realized. Otherwise, he would not have tried so hard to replace Lin Yi. After all, if it was purely to punish Lin Yi, why would he change Lin Yi to mine number 7? The reason why he proposed this condition was only to entice Lin Yi to agree as soon as possible. But now, seeing that the jade extraction rate of this mine was far from what he had expected, Meng Jueguang was in a difficult situation. If he could not dig out any good jade, no matter what, then the beautiful future that he had previously imagined was simply a daydream, picking up the other spare jade shovel. Meng Jueguang no longer cared about the dignity of the senior in charge. He could not wait to personally go into action. Damn, what year is this? Even a guy like Meng Jueguang, who knows how to put on airs, has personally come to mind? The 2 guards in the distance saw this scene and could not help but be taken aback, dumbfounded. These 2 were also people from Blue Cloud Pavilion. In the past, they had also dealt with Meng Jueguang a few times. In front of these low-level guards of Spirit Jade Hall, Meng Jueguang, as the supervisor of the welcoming pavilion, had always been arrogant. They had never seen him act so close to the people. Today was really the day. when the sun rose from the west. However, even if Meng Jueguang personally went into action as the senior in charge, he did not see many good jades being dug out. Even if he could occasionally dig out a few pieces of spiritual jade after working hard for half a day, they were either trash jades that were obvious at a glance or waste jades that had thin spiritual qi. As for good jades that were full of spiritual qi, even if he and Meng Tong did not give up and worked hard for a whole day, they still could not dig out a piece. Until the bell of the mining area rang, under the greeting of the two guards. Only then did Meng Jueguang and Meng Tong came to a stop with their faces covered in dirt. Looking at the basket filled with less than 30 pieces of waste jades, the two simply wanted to cry, but had no tears. What kind of joke was this? Linny, that bastard, could dig out 8 or 10 pieces of good jade in 2 days. If it was the two of us, we worked hard for a whole day, but in the end, we could not even get a piece of good jade. This was way too freaking weird. You guys, you two must be lying to me. This is not the mine that Lin Yi was digging before, right? Meng Jueguang suddenly turned his head and stared fiercely at the two guards, flying into a rage out of humiliation. The two guards suddenly jumped in fright, not to mention that Meng Jueguang's strength was originally above them. Just based on the other party's wide network in this Spirit Jade Hall, they could not afford to offend this guy. The two hurriedly distanced themselves. Senior Brother Meng, how can you say that? Lin Yi was indeed digging for jade at this mine before. What's there to lie to you about? If there is even half a word of falsehood, may the heavens strike us with lightning. Really? Meng Jueguang frowned at the two dubiously. Strictly speaking, these two did not seem to have any reason to lie to him. Of course it's true. And Senior Brother Meng, you're also someone who has experienced it, which mine points have been abandoned for a long time, and which mine points have been mined recently. These are all things that can be seen at a glance. Our number 10 mine area only had Lin Yi recently. The two guards hurriedly explained. That's true. Meng Jueguang then reluctantly believed the words of the two. In the end, he began to doubt himself again. Could it be that there is actually good jade in these spirit jades that were dug out today, but I just made a mistake? The same mine area, the same mine point, Lin Yi could dig out so much good jade in 2 consecutive days, but if it was him and Meng Tong, they could not even dig out a piece of good jade after working for a whole day in vain. Rather than believing such a ridiculous fact, Meng Jueguang would rather deceive himself and others and believe that he had made a mistake. Let's go in hand in the work. The more Meng Jueguang thought about it, the more he felt that it was possible. Without a second word, he immediately called Meng Tong. They hurriedly set off on their return journey. The two of them passed through the long tunnel number 10. When they finally arrived at the handover site, they happened to meet Lin Yi, who had just come out of the tunnel number 7. Seeing the two of them sweating profusely, Lin Yi was slightly stunned, and then he greeted them with a faint smile. Damn, this guy can't be waiting here to make a fool of us, right? Thinking of what they had done 2 days ago, Meng Jueguang and Meng Tong's hearts suddenly skipped a beat. However, the two of them really misunderstood Lin Yi. Although Lin Yi had long expected that Meng Jueguang and Meng Tong would not dig out any good jade, even so, he did not have the leisure to wait here and watch them make a fool of themselves. The reason why they met here was purely that Lin Yi wanted to observe the work and rest schedule of the guards in the 7th mine. Therefore, he deliberately stayed in the mine for a while. This was just a complete coincidence. However, as the saying goes, ex person, ex heart. Even if it was really a coincidence, in the eyes of Meng Jueguang and Meng Tong, it was definitely a coincidence deliberately created by Lin Yi. This bastard was holding back his strength to see the two of them make a fool of themselves. However, even if the two of them held back their strength to not let Lin Yi see them make a fool of themselves, Lin Yi finally saw it as expected. There was nothing much to say about the weighing. The key was the quality inspection result. Meng Tong, 0 good jade, 27 pieces of waste jade. This sentence completely sentenced their previous luck on the road to death. Both Meng Jueguang and Meng Tong's expressions suddenly became dull, and they did not come back to their senses for a long time. To be able to dig out 27 pieces of waste jade in the 10th mine, the harvest is not bad. Congratulations. At the side, Linny nodded and smiled faintly. In fact, he did not know that today, even Meng Jueguang personally went to the mine, according to the rhythm of his previous 2 days, which was less than 20 pieces of waste jade. Meng Tong's 27 pieces were indeed not bad. Therefore, his blessings were really from the heart. Chapter 36:15. What are you so proud of? You've only been lucky for 2 days. You won't be able to dig out any good jade in the future. Meng Tong couldn't help but say angrily, if it had always been in the 10th mine, then it would be hard to say. But now, Lin Yi raised his eyebrows. At this time, the quality inspector reported, Lin Yi, 7 pieces of good jade, 23 pieces of useless jade. Meng Tong couldn't help but feel suffocated. Even Meng Jueguang, who was next to him, looked at him with a speechless expression as if he was looking at an idiot. Meng Tong had already been transferred to the 7th mining area. How could he not dig up good jade? Saying such stupid words without thinking was simply asking for a slap in the face. Are the 2 of you going to continue working hard in the 10th mine tomorrow? Let me give you a friendly reminder. I've already taken all the luck from the 10th mine, and it'll be hard to get any good jade. Lin Yi said with a smile that wasn't quite a smile on his face. He turned around and left, ignoring the 2. F***CK. This bastard's arrogance knows no bounds. Meng Tong looked at Lin Yi's back and gritted his teeth. What do you mean by taking away all the luck in the 10th mine? He's just a country bumpkin from the secular world. So what? Although Meng Jueguang was also furious, he forcefully suppressed his anger and said thoughtfully, what does this kid mean by saying that on purpose? Is he afraid that we'll continue to dig in the 10th mine and we'll dig out some good jade? Yes, that must be it. Meng Tong's eyes lit up when he heard that. He said excitedly, this guy must be afraid that we'll dig out some good jade. That's why he said that on purpose to make us retreat. 9th cousin is really smart. This bastard is too king cunning. Humph, it seems like that's the case. Even if it's a high-quality mine, it's normal to have a shortage of good jade. As long as we continue to dig tomorrow, we'll definitely dig out some good jade. Chapter 36:16. This time, it was Li Zhengming who was stunned. Since when did Lin Yi become so docile and modest? According to his tough style of talking back to people like Su Lingchong and Meng Jueguang, it should be normal for him to find trouble with me at this time. Why did he become a coward without saying anything? However, despite his doubts, Li Zhengming could not help but let out a sigh of relief. He had witnessed Lin Yi's strength on the first day he came to the Welcome Pavilion. He was able to defeat Meng Tong in one move, so he was definitely not easy to deal with. If Lin Yi really insisted on finding trouble with him, unless he was willing to be beaten into a pig's head, the fact that he had hidden his strength would be exposed. The loss outweighed the gain. Giving up the high-quality mining spot that Li Zhengming had occupied, Lin Yi randomly found a slightly remote, uninhabited mining spot. Although it was not in the corner, it did not attract as much attention as before. As long as he was a little careful, it would be enough to ensure a safe operation. However, just as Lin Yi was about to put down the basket, someone suddenly cut in line and rushed in front of him. He stared at Lin Yi with an unfriendly face and said, "Kid, this is the mining spot that I have my eyes on. Do you want to compete with me? However, just as Lin Yi was about to put down the basket, someone suddenly cut in line and rushed in front of him. He stared at Lin Yi with an unfriendly face and said, "Kid, this is the mining spot that I have my eyes on. Do you want to compete with me?" Lin Yi frowned slightly. This person was one of the many former rookies who dug for jade in the 7th mining area. Because he deliberately observed the environment yesterday, Lin Yi had some impression of these unfamiliar faces. However, in his memory, this person was not at his current mining spot yesterday. However, Lin Yi soon found that something was wrong. Every time he walked to a mining spot, there would always be someone rushing in front of him. It should be known that in order to facilitate his operation, these mining spots were relatively remote mining spots with fewer people. And according to his observation yesterday, there was originally no one there. It felt as if everyone in the mining area was deliberately targeting him. Could it be that Meng Jueguang and his partner had sent someone to annoy him because they couldn't find any jade in the 10th mining area? Thinking about Li Zhongming's previous actions, Lin Yi quickly guessed the whole story. These people really listened to Meng Jueguang's instructions, so they deliberately ganged up on him. Not only Li Zhongming, but everyone else here was also Meng Jueguang's lackeys. Meng Jueguang was an experienced manager of the Welcome Pavilion. Not only this batch of newcomers, like Lin Yi, even these previous batch of newcomers present all more or less bore his imprint. Moreover, he had extensive connections in the Spirit Jade Hall. These people would naturally do their utmost to curry favor with him in order to be able to get rid of these dark days as soon as possible. What's more, squeezing out Lin Yi was a completely trivial matter. Although in the mining area there was no hard and fast rule that only one person could dig for jade in a mining area. Encountering this kind of situation where others snatched a mining area, even if Lin Yi couldn't directly stop it, he could also completely stay and not leave. In this way, the other party also couldn't do anything. It was impossible for them to rashly attack Lin Yi just to snatch a mining area. Under the watchful eyes of so many Foundation establishment stage guards, making a move without permission was simply courting death. He would be pinned with the charge of a mining riot. Even if he was killed on the spot, there was no way to explain it. But if he really shared a mining area with others, then it would be completely different from Lin Yi's original intention of hiding in peace. Not only would the efficiency of digging jade be inevitably affected, but more importantly, this was equivalent to having one more person closely monitoring him. Lin Yi simply couldn't think of stealing any spirit jade anymore. So facing this kind of situation, Lin Yi went against his previous strong attitude and actually chose to retreat again and again. So much so that, in the end, he was forced to a mining area in the furthest corner, and finally no one came to disturb him. This was the most run-down mining area in the entire 7th mining area. Not only was the jade production rate far lower than other mining areas, but it also seemed that no one had mined here for a long time. What exactly did this unlucky newbie do? He was actually bullied by a group of trash who failed to reach the Foundation establishment stage, and he didn't even dare to fart. Isn't he too weak? Hey, I heard that it was Meng Jueguang who called for it. This kid didn't even have eyes to offend a person like Meng Jueguang. He really deserved to be unlucky. The mining area he found hasn't been used for a few years, right? Can he still dig out jade? Who cares if he can dig out jade or not? Anyway, it has nothing to do with us. That mining area is so remote, I even find it difficult to turn around and take a look. It's good that he can't dig out jade. We don't have to go back and forth. The group of guards looked at this scene and sighed. Every one of them looked like they were watching a good show, but they didn't have the slightest intention of interfering. They were assigned to guard the mining area, and they were bored to death every day so they liked to watch this kind of harmless show. Of course, if the scale went too far, such as not even leaving the last mining area for Lin E, or if someone directly made a move, then they would have to step in. After discussing for a while, the group of guards quickly shifted their attention away from Lin E because the mining area was so remote. Even the guard closest to Lin E was at least 40 to 50 steps away from Lin E. Lin E wouldn't be able to notice any small movements, which was exactly what Lin E wanted. In this way, there would be no problem at all if he continued to operate like he did in the 10th mining area. While digging for jade, he smoothly replaced the pillar with the beam when the guards weren't paying attention. Lin E couldn't help but laugh secretly, although Meng Jueguang was his enemy, when he recalled everything that had happened before. This guy was simply a benefactor in his life. Not only did he give me the cave abode, the spiritual jade, and the mining area, he even helped me when I encountered a little problem. If this was in the secular world, I should really give this guy a few good guy cards. Lin E was in a good mood because everything was going smoothly, but Meng Jueguang and Meng Tong, who were rooted in the 10th mining area, were not in such a good mood. Not only were they not happy, but they were actually extremely bad. In the same mining area, the same mining spot, Meng Jueguang also personally went to work. However, after he and Meng Tong worked for a whole day, the result was the same as yesterday, nothing. They did dig out a few pieces of waste jade, but there was still no good jade. Chapter 36:17. Damn it! Why isn't there a single piece of good jade? Is it really like what that brat said? Is he the only one who can dig out good jade in this dead mining area? This is too strange. Meng Jueguang couldn't help but cry out. After 2 days without any results, even with Meng Jueguang's shrewdness, he finally began to lose his cool. Ninth cousin, is it possible that there is no good jade in this dead mining area at all? That brat Lin E was just lucky enough to dig out a few pieces, and all the good jade in this mining area has been dug out by him. Meng Tong was dejected, scratching his head and muttering, "Your words have enlightened me. If there is really good jade in this mining area, then it is impossible that he is the only one who can find it, and we can't." Meng Jueguang nodded thoughtfully and said, "We have been busy for 2 days without any results. Maybe there really is no good jade left here. This mining area is not the kind of high-quality mining area that we previously speculated. There are only a few pieces of good jade here, and that brat Lin E has picked them up. Then what should we do? Are we still going to dig tomorrow?" Meng Tong looked at Meng Jueguang eagerly. He had worked hard for 2 days in a row, but not even a single piece of good jade had entered his account. He was about to go crazy. Meng Jueguang was a senior steward, so he might not care about this small reward, but he, Meng Tong, was just a newcomer. Instead of wasting his time here, it was better to return to mine number 7 as soon as possible. Even if he could earn half a piece of spirit jade as a reward, it would still be a good thing. Meng Jueguang shook his head and said, "But what if this is really a high-quality mining area? We just happened to hit a relatively thick fault. Maybe we can dig out good jade tomorrow. If we give up so easily, wouldn't it be a big loss?" Worried about the gains and losses, Meng Jueguang had subconsciously fallen into a very typical gambler's mentality. He was definitely not willing to continue wasting his time here, but he was also not willing to give up just like that. He was afraid that he would lose the opportunity to obtain such good quality spiritual jades so close to him. But what if there is no good jade? Meng Tong cried with a bitter face. Of course, he also hoped to dig out good jade, but if he continued to waste time without any results, he was the one who would suffer a loss. When Meng Jueguang threw Lin E to the 10th mining area, didn't he want to waste time here? Now, Lin E was swapped to the 7th mining area, while Meng Tong, the loyal little brother, was thrown to the dead mining area to suffer. If only we could find out if there is good jade here. Meng Tong could not help muttering. He really did not want to continue wasting time here. His words made Meng Jueguang have a flash of inspiration. He patted his head and said, "Yes. We can find the exploration experts of Lingyu Hall to take a look. Whether there is good jade in this dead mining area, we can find out by letting them explore again. It's really good to look." Meng Tong was stunned, and then looked at Meng Jueguang with a strange face and said, "Ninth cousin, why didn't you say so earlier? Didn't you work hard these 2 days in vain?" That was then, and this is now. What do you know?" Meng Jueguang could not help but reprimand him with a red face. In fact, it was not that he did not think of this move. The main thing was that he thought that after discovering a good quality mine, he could make a fortune by himself. If he hired the exploration experts of Lingyu Hall, once they really found a good quality mine, even if he did not report it, he would at least have a share of the profits. This was obviously not in line with Meng Jueguang's interests. It was just that after working hard for 2 days, they could not even dig up a piece of good jade. When it was difficult to get down, it was not a bad idea to find the exploration experts. Even if they had to share some of the profits with the other party, it was better than the two of them continuing to work blindly like headless flies. After making up his mind, Meng Jueguang immediately left the mining area. These years, due to the network of connections he had built up, he knew one of the exploration experts of Lingyu Hall. But the other party was also a steward-level figure of Lingyu Hall. He was not someone that Meng Jueguang could order to come and go at his beck and call. He planned to first make friends with the other party overnight, so that he could ask the other party to come and help tomorrow. As for Meng Tong, he was sent away by Meng Jueguang to hand over the work with a sullen face, digging up a pile of waste jade, but not even a piece of good jade. It was enough that Lin bumped into such a shameful thing yesterday. If it happened again, where would he, Meng Jueguang, the steward, put his old face? But what made Meng Tong happy was that, under his deliberate dawdling, and the fact that the 10th mining area was very far away by the time he handed over the work, almost all the people in the mining area had left. Lin would not be so bored as to specifically wait here to see him make a fool of himself. So he escaped the disaster. Early the next morning, Meng Jueguang could not wait to invite the exploration expert he found to the 10th dead mining area. Along the way, the exploration expert could not help but ask curiously, "Old Meng, I am puzzled. What is there to explore in a dead mining area like the 10th mining area where even birds don't shit? Isn't it a waste of time to ask me to come?" "Senior Brother Ma, I originally thought so, but a few days ago there was a newcomer in our Blue Cloud Pavilion who dug out 8 or 10 pieces of good jade in 2 consecutive days. So I felt that there might be something fishy here." Meng Jueguang explained. The exploration expert called Senior Brother Ma had a distracted look at first, but when he heard this, he was immediately stunned. He dug out so much good jade in 2 consecutive days. Could it be that he accidentally stumbled upon a high quality or spot? Senior Brother Ma is indeed an expert. You hit the nail on the head. I think so too. So I specially asked Senior Brother Ma to make a trip. Meng Jueguang nodded. As the two talked, they arrived at the 10th mining area. After listening to Meng Jueguang's words, Senior Brother Ma no longer perfunctorily and began to explore seriously. After all, for an exploration expert like him, if he could find good jade in the 10th mining area and report it to Spirit Jade Hall, it would be a real great contribution. Under Meng Jueguang's expectant face, Senior Brother Ma busied himself for a while and soon came up with a result. With a sullen face, he said, "There is no such high-quality mining area, Old Meng. It is similar to the results of the previous regular exploration. The proportion of spiritual jade in the 10th mining area does not exceed 10%, and the concentration of spiritual chi is far from enough. In other words, even if there is 10% of spiritual jade, it is basically waste jade with thin spiritual chi. It is unlikely that there will be any good jade. Chapter 36:18. You don't believe me? Senior Brother Ma's face was not good, but due to his friendship with Meng Jueguang in the past, he still patiently explored the mining site alone, and then slightly surprised. What? Did you find a good jade? Meng Jueguang asked hurriedly, and Meng Tong, who was behind him, also looked expectant. The proportion of spiritual jades in this mining site is a little more than other places. It should be about 15%. And the concentration of spiritual chi is also a lot higher. Senior Brother Ma pondered for a moment, then shook his head and said, but it is still far below the average level. Even if good jade can be found in this place, it is, at most, 30 or 40 pieces. There is not much value at all. Only 30 or 40 pieces. The face of Meng Jueguang, who was full of expectations, suddenly collapsed. This was completely different from the high-quality mining site he had expected. Yes, this is still an optimistic estimate. In fact, if we want to dig out these 30 or 40 pieces of good jade, we don't know how much effort it will take. It will take at least 2 or 3 months. Senior Brother Ma said resolutely. Damn. So I really shot myself in the foot and have been busy for 2 days in vain? Meng Jueguang whispered to himself, but he did not have the slightest doubt about Senior Brother Ma's judgment. After all, the other party was an exploration expert specially supported by Lingyu Hall, and he had the absolute right to speak in this regard. Since he had come to a conclusion, then it would certainly not be wrong. I say, old Meng, you are also the number 1 figure in the Welcome Pavilion. It is better to be a little more steady. Next time, don't pull me over because of some newbie who got lucky once. It is simply a waste of time. Senior Brother Ma complained a few words of dissatisfaction, and Meng Jueguang had to nod again and again, respectfully sending off the exploration expert. After sending off Senior Brother Ma, in the number 10 mining area, there were only Meng Jueguang, Meng Tong, and the 2 board guards in the distance. Ninth cousin, what should we do now? There is no need to waste time here, right? Meng Tong asked. According to Senior Brother Ma, although there were still 30 to 40 pieces of good jade in the mine, it would take at least 2 to 3 months of hard work to dig them out. On average, it was less than 1 piece a day. It was completely incomparable to the 7th mine. Meng Jueguang nodded dejectedly. Indeed, there's no need to waste any more time. This mining area number 10 is really a trap. I must have been blinded by greed for a moment to be bewitched by this evil fellow, Lin Yi. It's a waste of energy to come here. Instead, he's been able to comfortably mine in mine number 7 for 2 days. Although Meng Jueguang had specifically informed the people in mining area number 7 to pressure Lin Yi, it did not change the fact that Lin Yi was staying in mining area number 7. Even if it was the most worthless mine in mining area number 7, it was still far better than the desolate mining area number 10. Thinking that Lin Yi was now comfortably staying in mining area number 7, Meng Tong gnashed his teeth in hatred. Meng Tong gritted his teeth in anger. That was his territory, and now it was taken over by this bastard. Cousin Joe, let's kick that bastard Lin Yi back. Let's just let him suffocate in mine number 10. Meng Tong gritted his teeth and said, Cousin Joe, let's kick Lin Yi back. Indeed, we must quickly find a way to kick this fellow back. Otherwise, it will be too easy for him. Meng Jueguang nodded reluctantly. Then he felt a little awkward. But how to make him agree to exchange? This is another problem. This fellow has tasted the sweetness in mining area number 7. He certainly doesn't want to come back to this desolate mining area number 10. Even if Meng Jueguang had a deep network in Spirit Jade Hall, the rules of Spirit Jade Hall were still there. If someone wanted to exchange a mining area, they must sign the contract in person. Just like when he asked Lin Yi to exchange to mining area number 7, he tried every possible way to entice Lin Yi to sign the contract on the spot. Now, he wanted to exchange Lin Yi back. He had to find a way to make Lin Yi sign the contract. Otherwise, if Lin Yi did not agree, even if Meng Jueguang found Dai Wuchang to complete the formalities, it would be useless. After all, the other party was not the kind of previous newcomer who failed to build his foundation and had no human rights. Under the premise that there was no special reason, even if it was Meng Jueguang, the big senior brother in charge, there was no way to force Lin Yi on this matter. Meng Tong frowned and thought for a moment. "Ninth cousin, why don't we give him another 25 pieces of waste jade?" "You're an idiot." Meng Jueguang did not know whether to laugh or cry. Why did he have such an idiot cousin? He rolled his eyes and scolded. "Do you think Lin Yi is as stupid as you? Is it not enough that he was tricked once before? Will he be tricked again now?" Hearing Meng Jueguang's words, Meng Tong suddenly felt that he was a bit stupid. He could only say weakly, "Then what should we do? If Lin Yi doesn't agree, then won't he stay in mining area number 7 and not be able to drive him away? It's easy to invite the devil in, but hard to send him away." Meng Jueguang scratched his head helplessly. 2 days ago, when he was trying to lure Lin Yi to mining area number 7, he was full of expectations that he would be able to find high-quality ores in mining area number 10 and make a fortune. In the end, he did not expect that not only would he not find any good jade, but he had also wasted 2 days. Now, he did not know how to kick Lin Yi back. He had really lifted a rock and dropped it on his own feet. In fact, it was fine if he could not kick Lin Yi back to mining area number 10. As long as he let Meng Tong go back to mining area number 7, Meng Jueguang would not suffer any loss. It was nothing more than watching Lin Yi live comfortably in his heart. However, the problem now was that he had a very serious hidden worry. The most important reason why he was able to successfully exchange Lin Yi from mining area number 10 2 days ago was that Su Lingchong had nodded to young Master Su. Otherwise, no matter how good his relationship with Dai Wuchang was, Dai Wuchang would not dare to go against young Master Su's will. The reason why Su Lingchong had nodded back then was because he, Meng Jueguang, had solemnly promised Su Lingchong that he wouldn't let Su Lingchong off easily after finding out what was wrong with the 10th mine. As a result, not only did he not find out anything fishy about mining area number 10, but he was also stuck in mining area number 7 by Lin Yi. If this matter fell into young Master Su's ears, then Meng Jueguang would not be able to bear the consequences. Thinking of this, driving Lin Yi back to mining area number 10 was no longer a dispensable action to vent his anger, but a death mission that must be completed, because this was not only a personal grudge of Meng Jueguang, but also related to young Master Su's face. Chapter 36:19. He couldn't think of a way himself, and as for Meng Tong, that brainless idiot, he naturally couldn't count on him. The two of them walked out of mine, number 10, with frowns on their faces. Meng Jueguang was just about to find Dai Wuchang to exchange a contract for mine number 7 for Meng Tong when he unexpectedly saw two familiar figures at the door, Kong Mingming and Zhong Pingliang. These two weren't only disciples of Soaring Pavilion, but they were also Su Lingchong's direct subordinates. They could be considered to be in the limelight among all the newcomers, especially Kong Mingming. Under young Master Su's special care, he had almost locked onto the position of the newcomer deacon. According to Meng Jueguang's observation, This person was quite scheming. Recently, he had been running to Jade Spirit Hall very frequently, presumably also thinking about the spirit jades in the mine. Meng Jueguang suddenly had a flash of inspiration. Right, these two were also Lin Yi's sworn enemies, and there was a deep hatred in the secular world. If he could ask them to help him deal with Lin Yi, they should be more than willing. Perhaps they knew Lin Yi better, and might have some good ideas. Thinking of this, Meng Jueguang hurriedly stepped forward and greeted, "Junior Brother Kong, Junior Brother Zhong, I didn't expect to meet you two here. What a coincidence." "Yo, if it isn't Senior Brother Meng." Kong Ming and Zhong Pingliang looked at each other and responded with a smile. Although the disciples of the Soaring Sky Pavilion naturally looked down on the people of the Clear Cloud Pavilion, Meng Jueguang was still the senior brother in charge of the Welcoming Pavilion, and his subordinate was also in charge of Lin Yi. Su Lingchong, the young master of the Su family, seemed to have some admiration for him, and so Kong Xiaoming wanted to make friends with him. As for Zhong Pingliang, he would follow whatever Kong Mingming did, determined not to fall behind. The few of them exchanged greetings, and Meng Jueguang immediately asked, "Junior brothers, are you preparing to go to the mines?" "Not bad. Newbies like us aren't as free as you, Senior Brother Meng. Other than digging for spirit jades, there are no other good ways," Kong Ming replied with a smile. Junior Brother Kong, your words are too modest. Not only are you two disciples of the Soaring Sky Pavilion, but you are also young Master Su's most valued subordinates. Even if you go down to the mines, it will definitely be the first mining area. Digging up 30 or 40 pieces of good jade a day is an easy thing to do. Even a senior brother like me is somewhat envious of you. If you still call yourself a little newbie, then it will be a bit unreasonable. Meng Jueguang's words were just a compliment, but Meng Tong, who was next to him, couldn't hide the envy in his eyes as he looked at the two of them. What did it mean to dig up 30 or 40 pieces of good jade a day? This meant that a day's worth of work was equivalent to 5 days of work for him. They could get a spirit jade for 3 to 4 days. It was really infuriating. Not at all. After noticing Meng Tong's envious gaze, Kong Ming looked humble, but he was actually quite proud of himself. It could be seen that it was the right decision to cling onto Su Lingchong's thigh when they first teleported to this island. Otherwise, if they were sent to a place like Blue Cloud Pavilion, working hard for a day and only getting 5 to 6 pieces of jade, that would be really miserable. Of course, if they were targeted like Lin Yi, it would be even more miserable. But if Kong Ming knew that he, a key newbie in Mine 1, could only earn 1 piece of spirit jade after working hard for 3 to 4 days, and Lin Yi could steal at least 2 pieces of spirit jade any day, with almost no risk at all, would he be jealous to death? Of course, according to Kong Ming's natural disposition of liking to take shortcuts. Although his current excellent environment was already enviable, he himself would not be satisfied with honestly digging for jade. Therefore, a few days ago, he dragged Su Lingchong around to build up his network so that he could find an opportunity to fill his pockets after building up his network. This was in line with his nature. It was just that Spirit Jade Hall's supervision was strict. Even if he clung onto Su Lingchong, this thick thigh, it would not be easy for Kong Ming to achieve this step. One must know that even Meng Jueguang, this senior with deep qualifications, did not dare to rashly lay hands on good jade with his current network. He could only wait for the opportunity to embezzle some scrap jade. Apart from being able to exchange these scrap jade for some meager remuneration, even if he managed to find a way to bring it out, it could at most be used to cheat others like how he cheated Lin Yi 2 days ago. Apart from that, there was not much use for it. Senior Apprentice Brother Meng, 2 days ago you told young Master Su that you wanted to investigate the fishy matter of Lin Yi digging up good jade in the 10th dead mining area. I wonder if there's any progress. Kong Ming turned around and asked, although digging up 8 or 10 pieces of good jade a day was already pretty miserable in his eyes if he could make Lin Yi unable to dig up a single piece of good jade. Wouldn't that be even more satisfying? Meng Jueguang was secretly delighted in his heart. He was just waiting for the other party to say this. Immediately, he let out a long sigh and said, "Sigh, don't mention it. Both junior apprentice brothers also know that I kicked this Lin Yi to the 10th dead mining area, which birds don't even shit on, in order to vent the anger of young Master Su and my 2 junior apprentice brothers. In the end, I didn't expect him to dig up good jade in 2 consecutive days. Isn't this going against our original intention of punishing him, not to mention anything else, just based on the grudge between him and my 2 junior apprentice brothers? We can't let him go on like this." Although they knew that this guy was deliberately trying to make himself look good, Kang Mingming and Meng Jueguang still nodded. Then they listened to Meng Jueguang continue. "So I set up a trap and tricked him to come to the 7th mining area, wanting to investigate the fishy matter in the 10th mining area. In the end, I invited the exploration experts of Lingyu Hall to take a look and found out that there's no good jade in the 10th mining area at all. There's nothing fishy about it either. He was purely lucky 2 days ago. If we let him stay there any longer, no matter how lucky he is, he definitely won't be able to dig up any good jade. Isn't that just right? Just kick him back to the 10th mining area, right? Don't you think so, junior apprentice brother Zhong?" Kang Mingming's eyes couldn't help but light up. He was holding back his strength to see Lin Yi suffer. If he could make Lin Yi unable to dig up any good jade for a few months, that would be perfect. Zhong Pingliang, who was standing at the side, nodded slightly but didn't say anything. He was Lin Yi's spy. At a time like this, he naturally couldn't speak carelessly. Otherwise, one word could help Lin Yi, but it could also make things worse. "Sai, I originally had the same idea as my 2 junior apprentice brothers." Meng Jueguang smiled bitterly. "But the problem is, if we don't think of a way to make Lin Yi sign the contract himself, we can't do anything if he insists on staying in the 7th mining area and refuses to leave. You're tuning in to the Mystic Fist YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.